go for ISO certification, or even not going for any certification purpose, but still if we want to assess our internal environments, we want to assess our data centers, that what can be the possible happenings that can happen due to any of the catastrophic events and all. So that process is basically called as a risk assessment. So we are going to talk about uh, some basic methodologies, and initially I will be talking on risk, what is a risk, and how we going to talk on risk management, what is a risk matrix. I will talking about 5x5 risk matrix, and after that thing I will be talking on ISO 27001 risk assessment, that what ISO framework is talking for risk assessment, the information security management system. Then we will be talking about other risk factors that are associated with the risk management, how we can manage the risk and all. So these are the agenda for the today. So let's start with this matrix. So this is the matrix. I think how many of you are already aware about this matrix? You can use your chat box for yes or no, or you can unmute also. That's not an issue. How many of you have used this risk matrix, 5x5 risk matrix in your organization? Anybody? Not yet. Okay. Okay, good. So today we'll be talking on this, and the most important part of any risk assessment is to find that what is the two important factors for a risk assessment. So in my previous classes also I have talked about two important factors. One is a probability and another one is impact. So I will be talking on this 5x5 risk assessment, taking the probability on the x-axis and impact on the y-axis. Okay, so don't get confused in this matrix right now. We will be talking around 1 hour on this risk matrix also. I have a few questions and few scenarios also with you, so that you have a better understanding on this. But this is just a introduction to the risk matrix, that how we can assess our risk, because every time when we need to find the loopholes in our system, we need to find some tools to, like if you want to find that your system is vulnerable to DDoS attack or not, so what you will do, you will do a ping flood test. So this is basically a risk assessment procedure, and I have jotted down some 50 specific risks for the OT systems, so that I am also sharing with you. So don't get confused in this 5x5 risk matrix. I will be talking each and everything about it. So basically, a type of risk matrix that is visibly represented as a table or a grid is a 5x5 risk matrix, and it has 5 categories each for probability on x-axis, and for impact it has a 5 values. So as you can see in this example, in this matrix, we have 5 type of impact, which start from the insignificant to minor, then significant, then major to severe. So you can see the severity of the impact is increasing here when we move on this axis, and on the opposite side we have a probability. Okay, so probability means what is the probability the risk will happen, what is the likelihood of the risk will happen. So it start with rare, okay, and then we have unlikely, then moderate, then likely, then almost certain. If I ask you a question, what is the probability of earthquake?
Rare.
Rare, okay. And if I say ask you what is the probability of a DDoS?
Quite likely.
Likely, yeah. So in this way, we will going to do the risk assessment, and we will also try to find the real life examples, try to map some of the issues that you people are facing in your daily lives. Okay, and so this is a simple introduction about this risk matrix as a comprehensive tool used by the organization during the risk assessment stage of project planning. And one more thing I want to ask and share here, that this is not any final matrix. Okay, you can also create your 6 by 6 matrix, you can also create your 6 by 5 matrix. It is just a general practice that practitioners are using globally. Okay, so if you say and ask me that, sir, this is who have issued this, so nobody is talking and issued this 5 by 5 matrix. Okay, so this is very important, I want to share in very starting of this lecture. And this is basically a best practices that the globally the people, the risk assessment peoples are using. Okay, so this 5 by 5 matrix actually covering all the aspects, and if you use this 5 by 5 matrix, it's somewhere easy to detect the risk before it actually happens. Okay, so let me talk about the probability. I think I've already talked the probability in my previous lectures, but let me repeat because this session is dedicatedly for the risk assessment. So what is a probability? So probability means likelihood pertains to the extent of how likely it is for the risk to occur. Okay, so if the type of risk is very rare to happen, it must be coming into this almost rare category, and the most the times the risk is happening is coming to the likely or almost certain. Okay, so basically we have converted and scaled into the 5, and we have also given some rating to it, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What this rating will help you, this will help you in finding the final risk score. Okay, so to final when you are calculating the final risk score for the assessment, this will help you out so that you can find the exact probability. So what exactly the rare probability is? Rare probability means unlikely to happen or have minor or negligible consequences. So can anybody tell what can be the rare probability for any event? Like earthquake, I've already told. Any more? I want this class to be very much interactive. I don't want to be a monotonous class where I'm going to speak and you're going to listen. So I wish that everybody could participate. If you do not want to unmute, you can use your chat box. But I wish that everybody would participate. And because this risk assessment is a thing that I can explain you the whole risk assessment in 15 minutes. And if we going to really discuss the practical examples, it will take around 5 to 6 hours. So it all depends that how much interactive you are. Okay, like okay, so tsunami is a rare risk. Okay, so let me jot down something so that everybody must be knowing what others are, like floods are there, and what other cyclone is there. Okay, other snowfall is there. Okay, fire. Actually fire, I would say that fire is coming into this unlikely. Because most of the times, if you talk about ratios, the number of earthquake to the number of fire incidents, you will find that fire incidents are more likely to happen than an earthquake. Okay, so this is not like you can say not any final verdict that fire is going to become in this or flood is going to become in this. It is a common discussion, I would say. It is a common discussion between the stakeholders. Okay, it is a common discussion between the stakeholders, and they will jointly decide that what type of event, what type of incident which would be categorized in which particular category. It would be in rare, unlikely, moderate, likely, or almost certain. So it would be the duty, and it is a like jobs of a stakeholder. So who are the stakeholders? The stakeholder is working under your CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. Then probably you have some risk managers. You have some risk managers. Then you have some risk executives in your offices. If I talk about power sector, I don't think so that there is any dedicated person who are talking and taking the responsibility of risk manager and risk executives. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, sir. There are CISO and alternate CISO in like entities
Yeah,
that
but
we
Apart
have.
from this, there are sir ISDN members.
yeah.
That
But
particular.
dedicatedly, na. But actually, na. This is such a big area of concern. Risk assessment (RA). We used to say it RA. That a dedicated team should be there for this risk assessment. Actually, in the government sector in which we all are working, and due to the lack of staff and all, the dedicated staff or risk managers are not there. But I would say, but that you, if you get an opportunity to do the risk assessment of our organization, so it's a wonderful opportunity, because you need to know the nitty gritty of your organization, how the data is flowing, what are the issues that can be alarming for your organization. So these are the stakeholders who take a common decisions. Okay. uh, can anybody jot down some unlikely events? Like one is a fire incident. Tell me what can be the events, such events.
One can be power failure,
Power failure, yes. And cyber attacks.
Road, cyber attacks, road accidents,
Haji.
road accidents.
Yeah, that's also good. So these are the probability of rare and unlikely. And then we have a moderate. Moderate means that are likely to happen. Okay, they are likely to happen and have serious consequences, because this is very important. Because when we talk about unlikely, they have a moderate consequences, and we have a, in this we have a serious consequences. So we have a moderate. In moderate,
And
we usually have some insider attacks. Okay, insider attacks we usually keep it into the moderate. Then we have a likely, in like DDoS. I've also already asked, and somebody has categorized into the likely event. It's good. And almost certain. Okay, tell me this thing. This is very important. Almost certain. What are the regular events that you people are facing?
phishing attacks.
Yeah, you're not audible properly. Can you please pardon?
Phishing.
Phishing. Yeah. Definitely phishing attacks you are facing. Smishing. Yeah, smishing. Yeah, very good. Virdirgirji. Smishing. Who will explain this smishing? I have already explained.
So the ones which we get through SMS, the
Good, good,
attacks.
good. And I think so. Wishing is also there these days.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, credit card ले लो, scheme आई है. Okay. And what other than phishing, smishing, and all? Reconnaissance. Okay, so this is not a type of attack, but this is a risk to organization. Okay, so what is the reconnaissance?
To gather
Ransomware,
in.
Ramchandrajin ji, ransomware is, I would say, it should be in the moderate actually. It should be in the moderate, because it's not easy to be happen into the OT environment or into our power sector, because we are already keeping, but definitely it's a risk. But I would recommend to keep it in a moderate event, because in almost certain means you are daily facing such events. Okay, so that's why I have put down random. Yeah, ma'am, you are speaking something. Sorry, I have interrupted.
No, so you were just asking reconnaissance. So I
Yeah, please
was.
share. Yeah, please
It
share
is
what
like
is.
to gather information about a particular thing where someone wants to attack, like to collect all the information about that.
Perfect, perfect. So, uh, do you feel that this is the thing that our systems are facing daily? And how you will judge it that your systems are facing this reconnaissance? It is not an attack, I would say. It is just a risk. But we have to understand that what are the risks and what are the attacks. Because there is a very fine line difference between a risk and an attack. And that's why this lecture is of 4 hours, so that we can discuss on a very broader level, we can discuss deeply onto this topic, because this is the topic which will build your entire mental scenario to handle any cyber incident or any risk assessment process. So how you would judge that you are facing a reconnaissance risk? Anybody?
We receive emails of different types
Okay,
regarding some information that can be one of the type.
okay. Other than that,
Choking of bandwidth, network bandwidth.
yeah, if someday you find your bandwidth is choking, then you can see that. Okay, let me tell you that one of the important feature is like sniffing. Okay, sniffing is basically what is the entire network traffic onto your routers or your firewalls. You need to check, and if you find a lot of SYN flags, okay, you find so a lot of SYN flags, or you feel finding a lot of ICMP packets into it. So this is a simple alarm that a lot of people are reconnaissing you. Also, some tools like there, like Nmap, using that actually this is going to be used by the attacker or somewhere who is going to create a risk for you. They are accessing the how many ports you have open. So what you can do on firewalls, you can create a rule and log all the traffic that is trying to reconnaissance and want to check what are the ports open at your end. Okay, so this is basic about probability, that what is the probability and how the probability will help you in doing the risk assessment. Okay, how many organizations have done the ISO 27001 yet? They must have done this risk assessment. So I would like to have their kind intervention in this, na? When we are going to do the real life risk assessment scenarios. Okay. So the second important thing is impact, because this is the second important axis, and impact is basically severity or consequences. The impact aims to determine the level of safety that a hazard can cause to workplace health and safety. So this is the important thing: workplace health and safety. Okay, so impact is basically on these two important things, and third thing one I want to add in this about your data. Okay, so three important things here to you need to assess the impact on workplace health, the safety, and data. If you have worked with the NCIPC guidelines, okay, NCIPC has released the guidelines to generate the CIA critical infrastructure information. So what they have asked you to assess the risk on the basis of national security, okay, and national health and national finance. Okay, security, health, and finance, and same thing we are going to talk here. Health is talking about your safety, about your security, and data is basically your business driven uh, objects, because if you have not able to make out to save your data during any attack or during any sabotage type of event, so it's very important to safeguard your data. So we have categorized the impact into three important things, where the insignificant will be scoring as 1, minor will be scoring as 2, significant is as 3, and 4 is major, and 5 would be the severe. So this is the impact. And in when we're talking about the insignificant effect, they won't cause serious injuries or illness. They are not giving serious injuries or illness. They are just a little bit effect to your organization. So if I say a DDoS attack, so do you think that DDoS attack will fix into which category? And I will be talking about like ICMP. If somebody is pinging you, then it is also a risk. So in which category it is fitting more into? Tell me.
Insignificant.
Insignificant. Perfect. And what about DDoS? DDoS will fit into?
Major threat.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It's into the major. And if I talk about insider,
It can
So,
can be severe.
it can be severe because it can result to a fatality, because if somebody has access to your entire system and he become rogue, so in that case it's very hard to handle such situations. Okay, so anybody can give this example for some significant that can cause injuries or illness that may require medical attention but limited treatment. Any type of risk? Floods, I would say. Is it fine to put floods in this category? Yes or no? I'm today seeing a
yes.
lack of energy in the class. Why is it so? Any specific reason, or classes are too much early at 10 o'clock? That's why on weekend. Why is it so? In the very initial lectures, I have seen so much of energy in the participants. But today I am seeing a lack of energy. Why is it so? Try to be energetic. Okay, tell me about some.
So,
Yeah, please.
no, sir. Please carry on.
Yeah, please. Yeah, Mulmule sir, you are saying something.
No, no. Please carry on.
Okay, okay, okay. So, what can be the major? Because there is a very fine line difference between a major and a severe, and when you are doing the risk assessment on the real table in your organization, and your team is sitting with you and you are discussing and fighting with each other, no, this should be in the major, this should be in the severe. So there is a very fine line difference. Like insider, I have said it is into the severe. So anybody can tell any type of threat which can I would categorize into the major part.
Ransomware.
Ransomware, yes. Good, good, good. Ransomware is a very important threat, and it can impact you so much. Okay. So let's move ahead and talk. We have talked about what is the probability and what is the impact. So in that case, when we multiply the probability into the impact, we will get a risk level, and on this basis of risk level, we will find that some risks are acceptable, some risks are adequate, some risks are tolerable, and some risks are unacceptable. So in this way, we are able to find that what are the risk score for a particular threat. Okay, so what are the acceptable risk? In acceptable risk, no further action may be needed, and maintaining control measures is encouraged. Okay, so in case your employees are not managing the passwords properly into your organization, so although it's a acceptable risk, but you will issue directions to your employee that you need to manage your password, change your password in every 30 days or every 15 days as per your policy or organization policy. Then we have a adequate risk level. It may be considered for further analysis. Then we have some tolerable risk. They must be reviewed in timely manner to carry out improvement strategies. Then we have unacceptable risk, must implement cease in activities and endorse for immediate action. Okay, so can anybody tell the biggest benefit of a risk assessment? Biggest?
We can focus on what is the critical area which needs immediate attention.
Yes, you can prioritize. You can prioritize the event. Okay, because most of the times it's very hard for everyone to prioritize that which risks are to be taken care of first, and which risks are to be really relax for a while. So now let's come back to this very much matrix, this 5 by 5 risk matrix. So now you have a clear understanding. In this case, let me ask you that in case there is a risk of DDoS. Okay, so now I would like to make you people calculate what is the risk score of a DDoS attack. You have already shared some values with me. What is the impact value for this? What you will say? What is the impact value?
4.
4. Okay. And what is the likelihood?
That is also likely only, sir. 4.
3.
3. Moderate.
16.
Okay.
3.
4. 3 is a 12. Okay. Some people are asking 4, 16. That is also good. No issues. So some people are saying 12, some people are saying 16. So it's good, because when you are really doing the risk assessment in an organization, this is the topic of discussion, that this is should be in the moderate, somebody is talking that should be in the likely. So in that case, you have a better exposure to that risk, so that you can know a better output that a risk can give. Okay, so in that case, what are the scores? Like 12 to 16s. Okay, so this is the probability area. Okay, very high to high. Now we have jot down some risk scores here. Okay, we have jot down some risk score, like 12 to 16 we have taking as a tolerable. Okay, we are taking as a tolerable. So in this case, we are going to act, but in a timely manner. Okay, but in case if I talk about same example, if it is an earthquake, in earthquake the probability is 1, the impact is a little bit high, so there should be a different risk level. So let us do some exercises. I have created some scenarios for you people here, and let's talk about this. So we are using the 5 by 5 matrix. So 5 by 5 matrix, can we term it as a tool? Yes or no? So it is a tool for us to find the risk assessment, and this is not a final tool. You can modify it at as per your requirement. You can make it as a 5 by 6. You can make it as a 6 by 6. You need to enter more numbers in it. You need to enter more values to it, so that it can be justifiable as per your organizational requirement. Okay, so in very much first we have a phishing attack. Okay, so let's discuss. I want everybody's participation in these exercises, because if you are not getting more participate in the exercises, I don't think so that when the actual risk assessment you are doing, you will definitely face a lot of problems. Okay, so what is the likelihood of a phishing attack? So due to the recent spike in phishing attempt in the industry, the probability is high. Is it so? Yes or no? Then we
Yes,
have
sir.
when we have a severity. A successful major attack lead to unauthorized data access, so the impact is high. So we have a risk score as 16.
16.
Okay, so for every type of attack, for every type of incident, you need to create some these type of risk scores. Okay, so these type of risk scores you can do. And what is the benefit of that it is with this risk scores in hand, an organization can prioritize which risk to address first. Okay, and it is entirely your call that risk, if risk is more than 16, if risk score is more than 16, then it is high priority. Okay, so in this case it is your call, it's your decision, your ISD information security division, that how you are taking this risk score. And I really wish that do not rely on consultants. Okay, this is a very big statement from my side, because what I have faced in a lot of organization, that the consultants, what consultants are doing, they have a fixed template for your risk assessment, and in every organization they are sharing that same risk assessment template. Because if I talk about our power sector, most of the people are from power sector in this section. In power sector, you will see that a lot of organizations, and I think majority of organizations have a same type of working. And even if I talk about the SCADA environment, REMC, Storms and URTDCM, they have most likely same infrastructure and same type of commitments they have. So in that case, don't rely more on the consultant. Try to do the risk assessment at your own, because that is very important. Okay, so another example in front of you. Okay, so tell me, uh, is it fine from your end? Data center power outage. In data
Yes, sir.
center power outage, we have a likelihood of 2. I have put down 2 likelihood because it's very hard, because when we talk about data center, we have redundant supplies. And redundant supplies will be provided by the DG sets or with your battery sets, है ना? And apart from this, you have multiple feeders from discoms. Okay, so the likelihood is very low, but the severity is very high. If you can say, if an outage did occur, it could halt our operation. So the impact is high. Okay, so we have a risk score of 10. So in that case, if I talk about this example, the phishing attack score is 16 and risk score of a data center power outage is 10. So in that case, if I ask you which event you will try to address first, phishing or data center power
Phishing.
outage, definitely the score is very less in comparison to the phishing attack. So in that case,
Phishing.
this is your second priority. Is it fine? If anybody want to add on in this, I would like to welcome anybody want to add
Means
on in
you are,
this.
means phishing will be first priority.
Yeah, phishing will be first priority. Definitely, to handle this situation, centers power outage, we need to act on it. But if same issues we are going to handle in the same time, then what is the priority? So this assessment will help you that what is the priority and how to prioritize the events.
Yes, of course. One more thing I can add to this.
Sure.
Phishing attack may have long-term effects and
Yeah.
long-term damages also.
Yeah.
While in case of power outage in a data center, uh, there will be inconvenience, but long-term damage will not be there.
Yes. Yes. Definitely it is. So that's why we need to address the impact, we need to address the severity, we need to impact the likelihood, because these are the things which will help you out to prioritize your events and to create a risk matrix as per your organization needs. Okay. So now another example in front of you, loss of non-critical data. Okay. So due to strong data handling procedures, the probability is very low, the severity is also very low, so we have a risk score of just 2. Okay, so in this risk matrix, one more thing you can see, uh, just remember we are taking these 4 types of thing, the acceptable, adequate, tolerable and unacceptable. So you can map these 4 things into this risk matrix also. Okay, so what is this? So you can see some light green figures. Is it visible properly? Some light green figures.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So these are basically acceptable risks. Okay. So as we move on this axis, you can see the color is changing. There is some different color in this. Like I would nomenclature A, then we have a B, and then the yellow C, orange D. So this is like you can use this color methodology also to map your risk, map your events into this risk matrix. So if I say this red one, you know, okay, 1, 2, 3. So these red boxes are very much high, and we need to take care of on very high priority.
But it is falling under.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you are saying Mulbule sir something. Hello, am I audible?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir, these boxes in the orange,
Yeah.
these are in the range of tolerable kind of term.
Yeah, they are into the tolerable because you can see na, although they have a higher probability, it is a higher probability, but still its impact is very low. So that's why we are put down into the tolerable category. Okay, and one more thing, this is not a final verdict, this is not a final table. uh, it can be changed, like if you wish you can change the score from 5 to 7 for this severe. So in this case, now the new score will be 35. Okay, and in this case 7 to the 14 will be the score, and 7 will be the score here. So this is not a final table. It is just a modality developed by the risk assessment people, the people who are associated with the risk assessment globally, and this 5 by 5 risk matrix is globally acceptable, I would say. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, you
So
any
for treatment
questions?
of risk, you have yes, sir.
Yeah,
For treatment of risk, I think you have divided into three or four areas.
definitely,
So,
definitely.
so can we also have a third area? To my mind, which is coming, it's risk transfer.
Definitely, we will be talking on that in coming few time, in coming few slide. But
Okay.
risk transfer, I would say, uh, risk transfer is something risk treatment plan. When we will be talking about risk treatment, na, okay. Currently, we are assessing the risk. Okay, after assessing, we will going to treat the risk. Okay, so risk transfer is a part of risk treatment. Is it fine?
Okay, sir.
Okay, and currently we are doing the assessment of risk. So because it is not that moderate risk can be transferred. Is it not? It is always not true that all the moderate risk can be transferred or all the high risk can be transferred. It depend on the point that what type of risk can be transferred. Okay, so in coming few slides we will be talking about this. So any questions up to this in this 5 by 5 risk matrix, and how we are going to assess the risk, because that is very important. And one more thing, I am not talking anything about ISO 27001 right now. I am talking about generic risk assessment. Generic risk assessment. If you adopt for a COVID, this can be the process. If you adopt for ISO, this can be the process. If you adopt some other like NIST frameworks, this can be the process. Okay, so any question then this?
I have a small question about risk probability. Like, how do you define that? Like, if we just now we said that कि data center में अगर fire incident कुछ हुआ नहीं है, तो maybe like it will not happen. It is not like historical things we are just considering, or we are actually signing some fact that all these precautions have been taken. Then only we'll say that there is no risk.
When we talk about probability, we are focusing on likelihood. Okay, so if I say you that let me give you a small example. Na? Let me give you a small example. Let it say there is a factory. Okay, there is a chemical factory, and there are two houses nearby. Okay, so what is the probability that these houses will catch fire? And there is one more house here. Okay, there is one more house here, which is like 10 kilometers from factory, and it is only 500 meters from factory. What is the probability of this house and what is the probability of this house? Tell me.
Okay, the houses which are
Almost certain in
Hana,
like
in this case, the probability is very high, and in this case, the probability is very rare, because it is 10 kilometer, and we know that that 10 kilometers still the fire will not travel. Okay, so in this case, in this same scenario, when we're talking about the data centers, we need to check that what is the probability of happening this event, because for everything we need to calculate the probability. If we talk about some cyber attack, the probability is moderate. If I talk about the fire event, the probability is moderate. But if I talk about, like, if I am in Rajasthan, okay, I am in Rajasthan, and what is the probability of tsunami in my state? Tell me. It's almost zero.
Okay. It's rare because we are away from
It is
the
not
sea.
rare. I would say it is a zero, because in any case tsunami will not come to me. Okay, because I am like 1,000 kilometer far. So in that scenario, because we cannot put zero, we need to put one, because minimum one value should be there. Otherwise, like severe 5 into 0 will become 0. Okay, that why.
That is
Yeah,
that is based on fact. Like
yeah,
the your location is 1,000 kilometers from sea, so that is based on fact.
fact, yeah.
But the thing is that we haven't had a power outage for last 5 years. Does that mean that we will not have power outage
No,
in
no,
next five
definitely,
next
definitely you will have a power outage. But what is the probability? And probability will be calculated on certain values. I've taken one example of this power outage also, that these values will be calculated depending on this. If you do not have a DG set, your score will rise. Okay, if you have do not have a DG set, your score will become 3. If even you do not have a battery set, your score will become 4. If you do not have a multiple feeder, your score will become 5. It all depends that what are the precautions you have already implemented, what are the protective controls you have implemented to reduce the probability. Now you understood?
Yeah, yeah. That means that if we have already implemented a very strong gateway
Yeah,
control, so that
definitely.
will also reduce the probability of phishing attack or this type
Definitely,
where we are filtering
definitely,
everything at
definitely,
the gateway.
definitely. Like if you have a NGFW, okay, you have a NGFW, next generation firewall. In last class, I will also talked. Then definitely the probability value of DDoS will decrease. But if you
Okay,
do
so
not
that
have
means
any fire,
we need to consider all the infrastructure also along with at the time of evaluating
definitely,
the
definitely, we
probability.
need to take the precautionary mechanism we have. Just because of the location of a device, you cannot find the exact probability. That's why this topic is very much wide ambit, and I'm trying to focus more on the real life example, real life scenarios that you people have going to do that after few time, because everybody is going to be for ISO 27001 certification and all. So that's why this question is very important, and I would say everybody should keep focus on this, that if you have implemented good controls, then definitely your probability will going to be decreased.
So
So I
means
think your, yeah.
we need to reevaluate risk assessment. How frequently do we need to do that? Like once we have, we keep on implementing the mitigating equipment.
Yeah.
So what is that
Okay,
the standard?
if I talk about ISO 27001, it is it is saying that in every 2 year, okay, you going to be go for a surveillance audit. Okay, like you got main audit, you got certificate, and in every 2 year or 1 year, actually it all depend on your organization policy. In every 1 year, you going to be going for a surveillance audit. So if before going for a surveillance audit, you need to reassess your risk. Okay, so I would say that like this can be the frequency yearly. So it all depends on what is your ICS policies talking, information security policies talking, what are your risk management policies are talking. So there are a lot. It is an organizational decision. Although ISO is talking about 1 year, that in every year you must go for this, but like if I talk about VAPT, okay, VAPT is it is a type of risk assessment, a technical risk assessment, and as per the CA guideline, it is 6 months. Okay, for IT and OT. So timeline can be set as per the requirement and as per the guidelines we are receiving.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions? Anybody?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
This is Anil Solanki.
Yeah.
This
Hi,
is
hi,
Anil
Anil.
Solanki.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, from ERDA.
Yeah.
Very good morning, first of all.
Morning, morning.
Yeah, sir. This risk matrix, right? Before this risk matrix identification, we used to do a BIA, business impact analysis, that most
Yeah.
likelihood events, and then what will be the impacts. And impacts will be, you can categorize on the financial, on the brand image,
Yeah.
on the serviceability. That are a lot of parameters, 5, 7, 6, based on your business or based on your service,
Yeah.
right? So we here we are not discussing or linking any BIE activity before this risk assessment
No, actually,
process.
na, in current scenario, we are talking that what are the probable risk in your organization and how we going to map with the risk scores. Okay. In the future slide, in like coming half an hour or 1 hour, I will be talking about BIA, and in that time I will map this thing with it.
Right. So because say we used to do that
Yeah,
BIA
yeah, it is
first
fine, and I'm
this,
going
and
to
then
map.
only
Yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
that will help us to identify that okay, these risks are associated or related to my business, or that what will be the impact of this event.
Definitely, because currently we are talking on generic. I've already said na, we are not talking on any framework. We are not talking on any specific requirement. I am talking on generic risk assessment. That what the exactly risk assessment is. Like if I
Right.
talk like tsunami, if I am sitting in Rajasthan and talking about tsunami, so it will not map to my BIA. Okay, because
Okay.
the probability is absolutely zero, so I am not going to map it into my risk assessment scoring and table. Okay, so definitely there are a lot of points, and BIA is a very important thing when we talk about business impact analysis. That how your business will be impacted, what are the processes will be impacted due to a particular risk. So that is a second story after this risk assessment.
Okay, sir.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So if I say
Sir, as
that, yeah, please,
sir, one question is there.
yeah,
Sir, there are two axes,
yeah.
likelihood and probability. So for likelihood and impact. So
Yeah.
for impact, so you have shown that it's a in case of CIA, it's directly related to public national safety,
Yeah.
in national security, public health, safety, and an economic thing.
Mm-hmm.
So with regards to likelihood, can we say that likelihood is a directly function of the uh, controls implemented in an organization?
Definitely, you can say. I would say that efforts is inversely proportional to your probability or likelihood value. If you increase your efforts, then the probability will decrease. This is the same thing you are asking.
Right,
If
we
you
can say in
if
this
you
way also, right?
if you put down effective controls, I would say if efforts means controls. Is it so? Efforts mean controls, and
Right, right.
if you increase your controls, if you implement number of more controls, the probability value will definitely decrease. It is inversely proportional. Is it fine? Na? This is the thing you are asking right now.
Right, right.
Right. Is it clear?
Right, sir.
Yeah. Still have any confusion? You can go ahead. Na? You can ask. No issues.
Sir, Parag here.
Nah. Yes, sir.
Sir, just a small question, whether am I wrong also? Sir, there is a caption data center power outage. Sir, means there are no power in data center. Whether you
Yes.
have data center, power generator, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you are not getting power in your data center. That means then how this probability likelihood is very low. You must
Because
give high priority to give the power supply in data center.
no, no, no. Just change. Look, priority is different and likelihood is different. You need to understand that. Okay, if I talk about your data center, what you have, what controls you have implemented in your data center for power supply? Tell me.
But I need to start my data center to access everything.
Okay, no,
Show
I'm asking the other side.
flow.
I'm
Basically,
asking
you're
that.
talking about two power source.
No,
Yeah.
I'm talking about whatever the power source. But my point is, डेटा सेंटर हैज नो पावर वो मेरा पूरा डेटा सेंटर बंद है
हाँ हाँ.
तो इनिशियली मैं क्या करूंगा व्हाट आई I'm looking for ransomware, phishing, or whatever, or just start my data center.
ना देखो इधर हम क्या कर रहे हैं बॉस, इधर हम ना रिस्क को असेस कर रहे हैं। अभी हम क्या कर रहे हैं, रिस्क को असेस कर रहे हैं। और रिस्क को असेस करने में हमारे लिए दो पैरामीटर हमने लिए, एक लिया हमने लाइक्लीहुड और एक लिया इम्पैक्ट। तो पावर आउटेज का जो इम्पैक्ट होगा ना वो बहुत ज्यादा है। बिल्कुल आप सही कह रहे हो कि पावर आउटेज का इम्पैक्ट बहुत ज्यादा है। देखो मैंने 5 लिया है यहाँ पे, कैटास्ट्रोफिक लिया है इसमें, ठीक है, बहुत ज्यादा इम्पैक्ट है। बट उसका लाइक्लीहुड वैल्यू 2 है। वो क्यों कम है? क्योंकि मैंने डीजी सेट, बैटरी सेट, मल्टीपल फीडर लगा रखे हैं। जैसा मैडम ने अभी बात करी थी कि इसका इम्पैक्ट क्या आएगा अगर मैंने डीजी सेट हटा दूं। ठीक है, मैंने हटा दिया सिस्टम से डीजी सेट, तो मेरी प्रोबेबिलिटी वैल्यू बढ़ेगी या घटेगी?
बढ़ेगी,
बढ़ जाएगी। मैंने बैटरी सेट भी हटा दिया, प्रोबेबिलिटी और वैल्यू बढ़ जाएगी। मैंने मल्टीपल फीडर भी हटा दिया, प्रोबेबिलिटी और बढ़ जाएगी। तो अब आप देखोगे कि अगर मेरे पास सिंगल सोर्स है पावर सप्लाई का, तो मेरी प्रोबेबिलिटी वैल्यू भी 5 हो जाएगी और मेरा सीवियरिटी भी 5 हो जाएगा। तो मेरा रिस्क टेबल में वैल्यू क्या आ जाएगी? 25। ठीक है, तो अब मेरे लिए सबसे प्रायोरिटाइज होगा इस इशू को हैंडल करना पहले। Okay, so we have to handle this power outage first. If we do not have these controls, these effective controls into our organization.
Okay, got it. Got your point.
Na? Because that's why I have written efforts is inversely proportional to the probability. If you have put down enough controls, then the probability value will decrease.
Right.
Is it clear?
Clear.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because I would say, na, in cyber security, like we are going to take this course of 120 hours. Knowing about the risk assessment is a very important part, because if you skip this part of risk assessment, it's very hard to draw the fine line diagram into the organization for security. Okay, so let us talk about some 50 common risk in OT environment. Then we will take a 10-minute break. Okay. So this is very important, and I want to make a table here, and I want to have everybody participation score, and I'm taking as an impact and probability. Okay. So for each and every risk, I wish that you please participate. I request everyone to please participate, so that you will also get benefited and everybody in this session will be benefited. So if I talk about unauthorized remote access, so what would be the impact value between 1 to 5?
5.
5. Okay. And what is the probability?
1.
Okay. Now second, physical security breach at a SCADA facility.
One, sir. Likelihood less, but impact more.
Probability is less, but what about impact?
5.
Very high.
I want to make this session a fish market, to be very frank. Everybody should unmute and at least participate. I really want that. Make it as a good fish market. Okay. Now malware infections on SCADA network. What is the impact?
Impact is very high.
4. That will depend upon the malware.
Definitely. Good. That I want to make, that you people come out with your ideas. That I really want to have. Okay. And what is the probability? Make it a 4. Okay. What is the probability?
Depends. 1.
It depends on the controls, but again, sir, it can be 2.
What you have, whether
Probability is
there or not,
between 2.
Probability is
malware is
2.
there or not,
Can I put 3 here?
it all depends.
Is it
Yes.
fine?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay. Equipment failure due to age. Like when we talk about legacy system, this is a very big issue, na? In SCADA, particularly the old RTUs of 30 years old are still working. Okay. So what is the impact?
Four.
4.
The
Okay.
five.
Impact is high.
It's a very high, sir.
If it is
Impact
failed,
is
it
very
is
high.
high.
Because we not change it is must be in service. So impact will be 5.
Okay. And what is the probability?
Probability is high.
Probability will be
4.
Probability is high, sir. It
Probability is
is a
also
4.
very high, na?
High, high.
Because
Again,
in
high,
that
sir.
case, I've already said it is a already completed its age. The probability
high.
is around 5 or 4, you can say. 4 is
Yes.
fine.
Five is better.
Okay. Okay, make it 5. Okay. Now, second, misconfigurations of SCADA settings.
Three.
3.
4, sir. High
3 or
4.
4.
Sir, it's impact less.
Probability will be low.
4.
No,
What is
sir.
the
Impact will
probability?
be high.
Okay, what is the probability for this?
Probability will
1
be
and
2.
2. Probability
Two,
will
sir.
be low. 1 or 2.
Okay. Inadequate firewall protection.
Impact will be high.
Five. High.
4 impact,
3 or 4.
impact 4.
Probability low.
Probability two.
Okay.
Low, sir.
Okay, now this is very important, lack of network segmentation. I have all in previous class, how many of you remember about when I talk about DMZ, MZ? How many of you remembering? So if you have not put down proper network segmentation, then what is the impact?
Impact is high.
High. High.
Impact is high.
5.
And what is the probability?
3.
Depends upon the organization.
Probability is actually very low
3.
because this is a one-time or two-time activity, and
One.
usually it's not changing frequently. Okay, so the probability is low. Okay, now in this case, unpatched software vulnerabilities. Okay, your vendor has talked and share a report with you that these are the vulnerabilities in your system and you need to address it, and you have still not still you have not patched that vulnerability. So in that case, what is the impact?
Impact will be high.
Okay, and what is the probability?
Probability is
High.
also quite high.
Moderate to high. It is also high, sir.
Okay. And I feel that these are the one risk that everybody is facing somewhere in your organization. Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
these are common
These
type
are
of
Yes,
common risks, and I have jotted down these 50 common risks so that you can have a better idea. And I think that when you really doing a risk assessment in an organization, you will find that these 50 risks are rounding around you. Okay, so
Many of these
inside,
risks appear in our organization also.
yeah, insider threats and
Yes.
sabotage.
5. Impact is very high.
And what is the
It will
probability?
be high. Probability less.
Low,
Probability
low,
low.
low.
We should never discount this probability.
Actually, what I personally say
Should
that
be
we
high.
keep this probability very high.
It should be high. Yeah.
This should be high because when somebody is not getting increment, the probability become high, and if he is getting promotion before his expectation, the probability will become low. Is it so?
Agree.
Agreed?
Yeah, internal
Yes.
people
yes.
become a hacker then.
Yeah. So I personally recommend to keep it as a high. Okay. So insecure wireless communication.
Impact will be high.
Impact 5,
Probability will be also very high because it can be breached actually.
Yeah.
3,
3, I would say 4 will be fine. Okay. So now let's find some score like 5. 5. Okay. So these are the risk score. So which threat you will handle very first?
High score.
High scores.
Having high score.
Okay. So now you are getting that equipment failure due to age is of very high score. So in that case, you will approach your management to change the equipments. Also, for insider threats, what you will do for insider threats? Okay, tell me what can be the control you can put for insider threats.
Physical security control.
Roles
Physical
and
security,
yeah,
yes, and I would say access and
roles and
authorization.
authorization.
Yes,
Sir, access
access and
limitation.
operation is one.
I think you
Monitoring
have,
also.
yeah, pardon?
Monitoring can be done like
Monitoring.
if it's not
Yeah, yeah,
happening.
Checking
monitoring, yeah,
and
monitoring.
monitoring.
Perfect, perfect.
User behaviors.
Yeah, user behavior.
CCTV
For that,
installation.
yeah, yeah. Yuba is a separate technology for it. Have you studied about Yuba?
No.
So
No.
User entity and behavior analysis. Let me try it for you. Sorry, my writing is very bad, no? Okay. So Yuba basically is a tool, or I would say it is a type of software that is nowadays coming into the SOCs, security operation centers. Okay. So probability in few time, if your organization will adopting a SOC, so try to incorporate Yuba into it. Okay. And there is a one more technology, SOAR, security orchestration and automated response. Okay. We will be talking on this. No issues. Okay. So now let's that exercise once again. First is impact, second is probability, scores. Okay, so I wish new participant would participate in this. So unencrypted data communication, what would be the impact? Tell me.
Impact will
Data
be high.
breaches. Okay, so should be 4
5,
or somewhere.
4. Impact is high.
What is the
4.
probability?
3,
Four.
I think
less.
3 should be 3.
Sir, it depends upon the control. So 3
Definitely,
because
definitely.
the hacker
Because
needs to put in effort.
proportionality with controls is always there. If I'd say that like in that previous question, power outage, if I say that one organization is having DG, redundant backup, battery set, then the probability is low. And if some organization is just have a single source, then the probability is high. So definitely the things will change with the controls. But I would say we are doing a generic discussion. Okay.
So here we are assuming that the server is very critical where the data is getting
Yeah,
transmitted
yeah, yeah.
between one to one.
So okay, so obsolete or unsupported hardware.
Impact will be high.
Impact is high.
High, high.
It is high.
Data tampering.
Possibility 4.
What about probability of data tampering?
it should be lower side.
Depends on control.
It should be lower.
Yes, it is
Yeah, yeah.
1 or
DDoS
2.
attack, we have a high impact and we have a high
high
probability.
High probability.
probability.
Okay. Loss of backup or power system, the same we have discussed. We have a high
High,
impact, low probability. Then we have unreliable backup and redundancy system, same.
high.
Lack of
Both high.
periodic security audit. This is very important. If you do not have a periodic security audit like 6 monthly, what would be the impact? And
Risk will be high around 5 or 4.
Probability will be 3, moderate.
probability, I
3.
would peak it as a 4. Okay. Okay. Inadequate incident response plans,
Impact is
or
high.
you can see
Impact high.
CCMP. I can write CCMP
High.
also here.
High.
What is the
High.
probability?
Impact.
Very high.
Low.
Tell me, low or high?
Low.
The
It
probability is
is
actually
moderate,
low.
sir. 3.
The probability is
3
low
to 4.
because the guidelines are very strict and everybody is talking on that. Your management is putting efforts on it. So I would say probability is low. Okay. And the lack of staff training on cybersecurity. This is very important. The impact is
High.
Both are high, sir.
keep it as a
Low.
moderate 3. And
Moderate.
CCMP
probability.
is change management.
Yeah, pardon?
CCMP is change management
No,
something.
no, it's cyber
CCM.
crisis management plan.
Acha, okay.
Incident response plan. Na? That's why I've added this with it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks.
So lack of staff training, what is the probability?
Yeah, should be
Probably
high,
it is
high
very
because
most of the times the people are not fully trained.
activity
Okay, phishing attack targeting operators.
so sir, 5 lakh is there.
5. Yes.
Okay, is it fine?
Yes.
Yes, yes.
So I think you people are knowing that what are the possible risk and what are the possible impact and probability. And I would say these are not the final values. It will directly in proportional to the controls or your efforts. Okay. And after few time, I will also talk in specific reference to ISO 27001 also. But for this time, I am just talking on very generic terms. At least you must know that what are the common risk in your organization. So we shall do all 50 or you want to skip? We will be talking about risk management process, that how the full life cycle, how the risk life cycle will work. And after that, we will move forward, particularly to the ISO 27001. So, if I talk about risk management, so this today's topic is about the risk assessment, which is under the heading of basically risk management. Okay, and risk management has a particular section of risk assessment, and in risk assessment we have a particular section of risk analysis. Okay, so there are three different terms: risk management, risk assessment, and risk analysis. So also we have a risk evaluation and risk treatment. Okay, so what are the different words, what are the changes, how does one is different from other? So we need to talk on that. So whenever we want to do a risk assessment, we need to develop a systematic risk assessment method. Okay, we need to have a risk assessment procedure, that how we are going to assess the risk, that and what is the matrix, or what is the tool, I would say, like what is the tool we are going to use. So in that case, in from this morning, which tool we are using currently? Can anybody tell which tool we are
Risk
using?
matrix.
Risk matrix, yeah. Okay, so in that case we are having this risk matrix, and with this risk assessment procedure is talking about your risk matrix, probably your 5 by 5 or any your 6 by 6 matrix. It all depends on the organization needs. Then we need to have a identification of information assets, that what information assets are being implemented and used into your system, so that you can assess risk of those assets. Okay, so sometime what happen na, you have very important asset in your organization into a data center, but accidentally you forgot to add that into your risk assessment table and all. So that's why it is important for creating a list of assets. So risk assessment procedure is your first step. Then we have a risk a list of assets that are going to be valued under the risk assessment process. Then we have a valuation of assets. Okay, then we have a valuation of assets. So can anybody tell how you are going to value the asset? In my very first lecture I have talked about this:
criticality.
confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Okay, the value of assets is depend on the CIA, that how the confidentiality of the asset is, how the integrity of asset is, and how the availability of asset will hamper your organization's working. Okay, so this CIA will help you in the valuation of assets. Okay, then after that valuation we are going to go for assessment of threats and vulnerabilities. Okay, so assets are different thing, and assessment of threats and vulnerabilities are different. You need to jot down that what are the threats and vulnerabilities, and you will create a risk analysis table. This risk analysis table will undergo a risk evaluation. Okay, and this risk evaluation will help you in finding out a risk assessment report, that what are the risk and what are the prioritized risk, what is the high priority risk, what are the moderate risk, and based on that you need to treat that risk. Okay, you need to treat that risk, and for treating you need a risk treatment plan. and sometimes some risks are acceptable, so we put it at as a residual risk. Okay, so the risk which are acceptable, we keep it as a residual risk. Maybe this diagram is little bit confusing right now, but I would say we will start this concept with some scenarios, so that this will help you out to have a better understanding of it. Okay, so this is a scenario where a medium-sized e-commerce company processes thousands of credit card transactions every day. They recognize the risk of data breach that could expose sensitive customer credit card information. Okay, scenario is fine to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so
Yes, sir.
tell me, if you are a risk manager and you need to treat this risk, this is a risk, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And you
Yes,
need
sir.
to treat this risk. You need to treat this risk. Mean you need to solve this risk. In easy words, solve this risk. So what you will do? Just forget about this. Just forget about this. Just think of yourself that what you will do if you are in such scenario.
Authorization first.
Authorization, okay, and
confidentiality, I mean, those people who are working or can able to get credit card details, their roles and responsibility should be set properly
okay,
so that data breach can be avoided.
okay. What about others?
Multifaceted authentication.
Okay, let me
Encryption can
talk.
be
Let me
enabled.
talk. You have put down MFA in your organization, and for implementing that MFA, your OEM is charging like 50 lakh rupees. Let us take an example. Okay, maybe it is not like that. So in that case, your management may or may not get agreed. Yes or no? Right? So what can be the easy, instead of managing the payment systems in house, the company decide to use a third party payment processor that is compliant with PCI DSS. What is PCI DSS? You know? Payment card
No,
industry
sir.
data security standard. It is it is a standard which is a very high level standard for credit card transaction or internet banking and all. Particularly for credit card level transaction, it is using, whether it is a debit card, international forex card, or all. So PCI DSS is a standard, and every organization which is processing the card should be mandated to comply with PCI DSS. Okay. If you go and open your phone pay account, phone pay na, it is written complied with PCI DSS. Okay, so what action the organization has done? It is asking some third party agency to taking care of their payment system. Okay, as you can see, even if you are a power sector company, anybody from Discom here? Anybody from Discom? Okay, any organization that is receiving payments from any users or something? I think IRDA is taking payments from organizations and all.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you are accepting online payments in your
Yes,
on your website?
yes, sir.
Okay, so you are taking care of your payments at your own, or you have used some payment gateway for that?
Currently, we are using a bank transaction.
Okay, you are using bank transaction. Okay, so if you will see na, like I am in Rajasthan and my Discom is like people are billing, depositing their bills through online. So we have in collaboration with BillDesk. Okay, so this is a payment gateway, because the organization main work is not to manage these payments and all. It is the forte of this particular organization. BillDesk is there, and Payu is there. Payu is one of the good payment gateways there. So what we are trying to say, that we are not handling each and every risk at our own only. Okay, sometimes we have to treat the risk in such a way so that we can transfer the risk. Okay, we can transfer the risk. So basically what we are doing, we are transferring the risk. Yes or no?
Yes,
Yes or
yes.
no? Because in case your main aim is to supply the electricity, okay, and for having this secure card transaction, card payment, managing lot of things with bank, creating the transaction ID. So you need to have a specific infra for that, which is of very high security, and definitely it will cost you a lot. So what you will do, you will basically transfer the risk. So this is called the transfer of risk, because you are not handling and securing the credit card transaction third party. So this is a scenario to make you people understand that what is the meaning of exact transfer of risk. If you see this example, okay, if you see this, I have written risk treatment. Risk treatment. So basically, transferring of risk is a type of risk treatment. Transferring of risk is a risk treatment, that how we are going to handle that risk. Is it clear?
Yes.
Any questions in this?
Transferring the risk again cannot deny the ownership of the risk.
No, but actually, na, when you are transferring the risk, all the credit card transaction, if they are not matured, or if the transaction is matured and somehow the person's account is debited, so you are not going to handle that request, na? The payment gateway will going to handle that request.
But in case if there's a data breach happen, like so who will be responsible? I mean, of course, because we have a tie-up with a company called, for example,
Now,
Bill
if
Desk.
data breach of credit card happens,
Hmm.
okay, because you have transferred the risk of handling the credit cards only, not to handle your data.
Hmm. Correct.
Okay, so in that case, the responsibility is of payment gateway only.
Okay.
Okay, because these are very important things, risk transfer, risk acceptance, and all. That's why I have not directly making you people explain. I am created some scenarios. So this is the second scenario of risk acceptance. Okay, so in this scenario, as you can see, an online blogging platform realized their risk of distributed denial of service attack. After conducting a risk assessment, they determined that the potential financial and reputational impact of a short-term DDoS attack would be minimal, as the majority of these revenue come from long-term subscription and not daily traffic. So what action they have taken? Instead of investigating the expensive DDoS mitigation services, they decided to accept the risk. They prepare by having a communication plan to inform users in case of any specific disruptions and to assure them their personal data remains secure. Okay, so what they are doing? They are facing lot of DDoS attack. Okay, now in that case they have accepted the risk. So okay, we will accept the risk, and they have alerted their organization to handle these things, and also they have communicated with their stakeholders to accept the risk. Okay, so anybody can give example that with a risk you are accepting. Let me give you a very small example, because sometimes acceptance is also in proportional to the cost involved. Okay, cost involved. Let me give you an example, like you have a office and you have an internal router. Internal router means it is not a internet facing router. Okay, and below that router some PCs are working. Okay, which is of a non-critical nature. Some data processing, some like Word, Excel work is doing only. Okay, non-critical. This router will cost you around 8 lakh rupees, and the value of this PC is like 50,000 each, with non-critical data. So do you change this router? Yes or no? Will you go for a changing of
Yes.
this router? When you do a cost benefit
No.
analysis, there is no choice to change the router. You do not want to change the router because the systems which is behind this router are having a less value and having a less critical data, even non-critical data.
Will not change.
You will not change. Okay, so this is a risk. This is a risk that a router is 8 years old. This is a risk that router is 8 years old, but still we are not changing because the cost benefit analysis is saying that changing this router will not be a good decision. So we are accepting the risk or not?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So in case of like one of the example can be like in case of SCADA system upgrade, where we know that the system are outdated, because those changes cost in CRs. So maybe because of the budget constraint, sometime organization take a decision that they will upgrade those system could be in future, not in that particular financial year. So
Definitely, na,
that is
because
again
when
kind of risk, known
because you
risk.
are accepting the risk, because when you have done the cost benefit analysis, when you have seen that the systems are already are not internet facing, so in that case you can accept the risk.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, let's move forward. Okay, so now another example is of risk avoidance. So how many treatment we have covered still? Tell me. Which treatment we have covered? Risk. First one is risk transfer.
Transfer,
For risk
Recent transfer.
acceptance.
Risk
risk acceptance.
Acceptance.
acceptance. And now we are talking about risk avoidance.
Avoidance.
Okay, so just see the scenario. A financial institution is considering offering online chat support for its customer. Okay, what they are offering? Online chat support of its customer. However, after risk assessment, they realize that verifying user identities through chat can be complex and might expose them to a risk of fraud and identify theft. Okay, a organization is using online chat and they found hard to identify the users over a chat. So what they have done, the institution decided not to implement the chat. Okay, they have just revoked that feature. They have revoked that feature and sticks with their existing phone and email support. Okay, so what they are doing, they are avoiding the risk. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Because they are removing the feature and to avoid the associated cybersecurity risk altogether. So this is called as a risk avoidance. That's why I put down these scenarios with you so that you can have a better overview about it. Is it clear? 3: risk transfer, risk acceptance, risk avoidance.
So avoidance can be like, for example, organization take a call that tomorrow, they wanted to restrict on personal mailing solution, and they will block those access so that because personal mailings cannot be tracked trace.
Mm-hmm.
So that can be a kind of avoidance in case of data breach or something. So they
Yeah,
have
yes,
taken
yes,
a
yes. This
decision
can
there.
be treated as avoidance, definitely. Basically, we are going to treat the risk, we are going to handle the risk, and we are doing the risk treatment processes. So these are the type of risk treatments. We have studied
Sure.
risk transfer, risk acceptance, and risk avoidance. Is it fine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So now the fourth type of process is risk reduction or mitigation. So let us see a scenario to have a better understanding of it. A tech startup develops an app that requires user location data to function. They recognize the risk of potential unauthorized access to this sensitive location data. So what action they have done? The startup decided to implement strong encryption for the stored location data, use secure coding practices, and regularly audit the system for vulnerabilities. They also provide an option for users to limit how their location data is used within the app. So what they are doing? They are going to handle that risk and imparting the necessary actions to reduce the risk, or I would say mitigate the risk. So this is called it as a risk mitigation or risk reduction. So by taking these steps, the startup reduces the potential impact and likelihood of a breach involved user allocation data. Is it fine?
Yes, sir.
So this is risk reduction. Okay, so let me give you an example, and or I would ask an example from you, a question from you, that in a SCADA environment, your RTUs are very much old, okay, and you need to change it. So you will change it or not?
Yes.
You will change it. So what type of action you are taking?
Mitigation.
Mitigation. So you are using a reduction, risk reduction or mitigation, one and same thing. So you are doing risk reduction. Okay. Now the second option is risk sharing. Okay. Let us talk on that. A scenario is there. A large online retailer want to expand it into a new region, but they are unfamiliar with the region's cybersecurity regulation and potential threats. Instead of going it alone, what action they have taken? They form a joint venture with a local company that has experience in the region. Both companies share the responsibilities and risk associated with the cybersecurity. So basically, we are sharing the risk. Have anybody heard about the word we used to say it as a? I'm just forgetting. PaaS, platform as a service. In the cloud infrastructure, there are three type of services. One is IaaS, infrastructure as a services. Then we have a platform as a services, है ना? And then we have a
SaaS.
pass. We used to say it as a pass.
Pass, SaaS.
PaaS, SaaS, and third one is IaaS. Yeah. So yeah, IaaS. So do you think that in this case we are sharing the risk, or we are
Yes.
transferring the risk? Tell me.
Sharing the risk.
Tell me, you are sharing the risk or transferring the risk?
It's sharing.
What about others? Everybody, because this is a very tricky question, I would say. Because I will explain you, but I want everybody's input in this. Mulmule sir, what do you think? It is a risk sharing or risk transfer?
It's a sharing.
It's a
So
sharing.
it will depend on the responsibility matrix.
Yeah, देखो, when we talk about cloud environment, basically in cloud environment there are three important parts. Okay, one is the security, another one is application data, and the third one is your database. Okay, so if I talk about security, in security you are basically transferring the risk. Okay. In security, you are basically transferring the risk. You do not know that what routers he has implemented, what firewalls you are implemented. If you have used any AWS firewall, AWS services, so do they tell you that this firewall we are using?
No.
Do they tell that this router we are using? No, because the security is entire responsibility of AWS now. Okay, so in that case we are transferring the risk, and in these two cases we are basically sharing the risk. So cloud environment is basically a blend between sharing and transfer. Understood?
Yes.
As you can see, there is a very fine line difference between a sharing and a transfer, because in sharing you are also responsible and the other party is also responsible, but in transfer your responsibility will be very zero.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions in this? So how many types of risk treatment we have studied? Can anybody jot down?
These
Acceptance, avoidance, sharing, and
transfer.
Okay. Let me ask some more questions from you. You have a security guard in your organization. Some organization has taken the complete responsibility for the security. So it's risk sharing or risk transfer.
Transfer.
It's a risk
Why?
transfer.
Why transfer?
We could totally depend on third party security.
But just tell me, do you have any restriction on that?
No.
No.
You will ask your security to do some changes. They will accept or not? Just tell me. They will. They will accept. They will acknowledge your request.
Yes.
But in risk transfer, the entire responsibility is of the other party, third party risk owner, and they will not accept any request from your side. So if third party is acknowledging your request, so I would say the risk transfer is not perfectly fine. Basically, it is risk sharing. I will.
Sharing, yes. Sharing.
Because vice versa, you people are helping that security guards. If your chairman is coming and your security guard will ask your chairman to write a entry or log into the register, so do you want to have this thing in your organization? Just talk to me
No.
practically. Just not.
No,
I'm a very
suppose
practical
yes,
person.
it is not. It will not be possible for
It
us
will not be
to
a possible for
implement very
chairman
stricter
to.
policies.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. So
very
basically,
strict
in that
policies
case,
for all.
yeah. So basically, it's a risk sharing in that case. It's not risk transfer. You have your own responsibilities also in that security. Because like when ministry will ask you your breach has happened, so you cannot say that we have a fala company, that particular company, he is taking care of it, and we will not responsible for it. Okay. So any questions in this risk management table and this in this diagram? Because this diagram is a flow chart, basically a roadmap for you to go ahead. Tell me any questions in this? Anyone?
Sir, in the platform as service, you said we are sharing the risk. Just
Mm-hmm.
because just because we are managing the database ourselves or any other reason, sir?
See, when we working in a cloud environment, who is going to take care of the infrastructure? Tell me. The physical infrastructure is the responsibility of cloud provider or you?
Cloud provider.
Cloud provider, and you are hosting your database onto your on that physical infrastructure only.
Yes, sir.
So, do you think that it's risk transfer or sharing? Basically, responsibilities are shared between you. Okay, and in some day you find that your database is upgraded and some hardware changes are to be needed. So he will accept or not?
He will. But
He will.
what part of security I am taking care of, sir?
Yeah. So when you find that you are also taking care of that thing, so basically it's risk sharing. It's not risk
No,
transfer.
no, sir. I didn't get which part of security is being taken care by me.
I'm not getting exactly your question. Can you please
Sir,
elaborate?
yeah. Which part of security is dependent on me when I'm going for cloud services?
Okay, okay, okay. So this is like just come to this question again. What's your good name, sir? Which
Sir,
organization you are?
Rohit Kumar, sir.
Okay.
Day India. Rohit Kumar.
Okay, great, India. Good. So, when in cloud environment, as I have already said, the security part, okay, the security part is entirely the responsibility of the cloud provider. Okay. In any
Yes.
of the SLA, in any of the SLA service level agreement, he will say the uptime will be 99.99%. So this is the commitment from its side. To deliver this commitment, he will not give any further commitment that to commit this thing, I will put down some NGFW, I will put down 7 ISP into my data center, I will put down 24/7 shifts or something. It is just saying a simple thing that we will provide you 99.99% uptime. Okay. So this is the way we are exactly giving the responsibility of security part to the cloud provider. But in case of application and data, actually both are taken care of. The physical infra is taken care by the AWS. Let us take an example. Your database servers are also physical infra is taken care by the AWS. But the application part, the database, the SQL is taken care by you. So basically these two parts are in risk sharing, and this security is basically transferring. This is the transfer of risk. You are not going to take care of that risk. He will going to take care of risk at 100%. It is his responsibility. If there is any VAPT required, do you think that have you ever talked to ask the AWS that you have done any VAPT or not? No, we are not asking, because when we are talking about SLAs, it is his duty to give 99.9% uptime. Is it fine?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
But basically, the application database level security is responsibility of ours.
But physical
Yes.
infra is going to be taken care by the cloud provider.
Yeah. But software level we have to take care.
Yeah. Software level you have to take care, and for the infra level, security infra and security, any software you or DAM or something they are using, they are not our responsibility.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions in this? Because this is very important. Although we will be talking a little bit more in coming slides, but this is very important to understand that why security is an important part, and that's why you see that government are not allowing most of the critical infrastructure to go on a cloud. Now you understand that why the critical infrastructure are avoided to use cloud, because in that case we are not
Yes.
ensuring a security, because they are not allowing us to interrupt in between their security protocols and standards. Is it fine?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
So let's move ahead. So okay, a simple question for you. What is the primary goal of risk assessment? Tell me.
All of the above.
All of them.
Good.
All.
Okay.
P, the probability of risk.
Perfect. Good. So let's start with the ISO 27001 specific risk assessment. Okay. Till now we are talking about the generic risk assessment, but let us talk about specific to the ISO 27001. So is any classes done yet for ISO 27001 till?
No, sir.
I think
No, sir.
Okay. No issues. So I will try to cover a basic introduction for ISO 27001 also. And as you can see, I will be talking on ISO 27001 2022. Earlier it is 27001
2013.
2013.
2021.
And
30.
before that it is 27001 2000. Which one?
8.
8. Okay. And when it is released, it is released in October 22. Okay. So if you are going for a certification now, you should go for ISO 27001 2022. They have given 2 years of migration from 2013 to 2022. So in 2 years you can migrate from your 13 version to 22 versions, because number of controls are reduced. Actually they are merged. and I will talk a little bit about it. So what is the ISO 27001 standard? So this standard represents the international standard for establishment of information security management system in your organization, and the recent version was published by International Organization for Standardization.
ISO.
Okay, okay. Let me ask one thing. What is the full form of ISRO?
Indian Space Research
Indian Space
Organization.
Indian
Research
Space
Organization.
Research Organization.
Okay. So what shall be the full form of ISO?
International
International
Standard
Standards
Organization.
Organization.
International,
Standard Organization.
Organization for
but
Standardization.
the full form is International Organization for Standardization. It should be IOS. Then why it is ISO we are using?
It is French
तो
actually.
फ्रेंच में बोलने से इंटरनेशनल है
International Organization.
It is not French actually. Tell me.
Okay.
Have you ever think like that? That why it is not iOS? Why it is ISO?
Oh,
Anyone? Any guesses?
maybe
This is
there is
very
a
important.
IOS
iOS reference model.
Yeah, pardon?
There is a iOS reference model in networking, so maybe.
No. It is not.
Actually, sir, there is no
maybe it is
change
not
in
an
nomenclature.
acronym at all.
No, it is. Actually, na, let me tell you. Have you heard this word isobar?
Yes.
Have you heard this word isotherm?
Yes.
So what are these words? They are talking about a specific baseline, and above some certain baseline you are talking on this. When you are talking on baseline pressure, you are talking on isobar. When you are talking on some baseline temperature, you are talking on isotherm. So ISO means standardization. ISO means what? The ISO means here
Standardization.
standardization. So that's why they have used word ISO. Understood now?
Okay.
So don't get confused. In exam, this can be also question. Okay. So that's why International Organization for Standardization is the full form of. We used to say it as ISO. This is not a full form, I would say, but it is called it as ISO because ISO means ISO, and ISO means standardization, to keep everyone on a same pace. What is the main motive of any standard? To keep you on the same pace. What the world is doing, they want you to be on same pace.
Everybody can use that as a reference.
Yeah, everybody can take it as a
Universal.
reference. Good, sir. Good, Mulmule sir, good. So that's why this ISO word is used. Okay. Initially when I started my career, 10 years before, I am also getting confused due to this. Then I have asked with my seniors and all, then they have explained me. Okay. So the standard is used worldwide by organization that would like to implement information security based on global standard. Okay. So can you name any other standard who is talking about information security other than ISO? NIST, isn't it? Okay, tell me what is the latest version of NIST? You have studied NIST, na? Tell me, what is the latest version of NIST? 1.1. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me tell you, on 8th August 2023, just like 20 days before or something, NIST has released a document for public opinion for NIST 2.0. Okay. So in very few months you will be getting this new NIST framework 2.0. Currently, how many functions are there? 5 functions are there in NIST 1.1, and one more function is being added in NIST 2.0. Okay, so if anybody has an interest in this NIST framework, Like I'm a very big fan of NIST framework, so I'm regularly updating myself with this framework. So I thought to share this with you in this platform. Okay, so one more function is being added, and the document is being available on internet for public opinion. So you can also read it, and if you have any opinion, you can share with the NIST team. Okay, so I have just added this, although we have to talk on ISO, but I wish to added this. Okay, other than this framework, which is the other framework? COBIT and GDPR, General Data Protection Regulation. Other than this, PCI DSS for credit card industry. Have you heard about this or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so basically ISO standard is talking about the information security management system, and this is the structure of the ISO
These
27001.
standards are US standards, no?
Yeah, NIST has released a cybersecurity framework CSF for critical infrastructures, okay, in 1.1, but they have removed the word critical infrastructure
But
from upcoming
these standards are accepted by Indian government also,
Sir,
because these standards are, I think these are US standards, no?
actually these are not, I would say, as a US standard. Like ISO is, they are international standard, I would say. NIST is
Okay.
specifically to US because National Institute of Science, Scientific Technology, the institute who have released the NIST framework, is a US based organization. So I would say that it can be treated as a NIST as a US framework, because it is created dedicatedly for the US defense initially. Okay,
Okay.
but nowadays it is accepted globally, sir. Okay. So okay, so we will be talking on ISO 27001 structure. Okay, let me tell you, we are not going to deep dive into the 27001. We will be keeping ourselves restricted to risk assessment of 27001, because 27001 beauty is that it work on the concept of risk assessment, and risk based approach is being used for the implementation of ISO 27001. So basically this is having a clause structure where a significant number of requirements and a part of terms and conditions are enshrined in this framework. Basically the annexure is in the form of appendix, and as you can see, it is having how many clauses it is basically having 11 clauses. It's starting from 0 to improvement, so basically 11 clauses. And these 11 clauses start from introduction, where general introduction of the standard is there. In the scope version, description of an ISM is generic requirement. Then we have a normative references, that what are the different references ISO is talking about. Then the terms and definitions, description of main terms and definitions. So our most focus should be on which part? Risk assessment should be in the which part? Can anybody tell? Guesses? Any guesses? Which clause is talking about risk assessment in this? Try to figure it out through with their headings. It's a question for everybody. Which part do you think?
Performance evaluation, sir, 9 number.
Performance evaluation is not a correct answer.
6, planning.
6. Yes. What's your name, sir?
Planning.
Yeah, good. Planning is very important, because clause 6 is primarily about risk management, and is therefore one of the most important section of this standard. It also covers setting objectives for the ISMS and planning for changes to the ISMS, because the risk assessment part, as you can see now, it is written here only. Must be taken to identify, analyze and plan to treat information risk. Okay, so risk treatment is a planning of this. Also when we talk about clause 8 operations, okay, It is also very much similar to clause 6, and in clause 6 we have a specific clause 6.1 and 6.3, which is talking about the risk management and change management into practice. And change management is a part of operations. Okay, so when you will see the clause 6.3 in the standard, you will see the change management is a part of operations. So sometimes we consider clause 6.1 and 6.3 in the risk management approach. Okay, so let me share you with a simple certification path, that how any organization initially start to work for certification. So how many of you are aware about this certification path?
No, sir.
Okay, so
No,
although
sir, we are not aware.
okay, so what the thing is, this is not a part of this session. To be very frank, the content of this session is not a part of this part. This is not a part of session, but because I have added, why I have added this, because until unless you do not know how to implement the thing, it's very hard to understand the advanced things of it. So risk assessment is an advanced part of our ISO. So first we need to have a brief idea what the ISO is talking about. So ISMS implementation certification can differ from organization, but this is the common steps that is talking about. Okay, so in the first part we are talking about the top management, that top management must absolutely commit to the undertaking of certification by supporting the project organizationally and financially. Definitely, as you can see, a group of people need to be assigned to run the project and be given time and access to resources to complete the project successfully, because this is very important. As I have already shared in one of my slides before, that for risk management you need to have a risk manager, risk executive. So this is the important part of the management, to dedicate people for this process. Okay, in second we have a definition of scope and context of ISMS. So when we talk about the scope of ISMS, this should be clearly defined, because until unless you should not have a clear definition of scope. So what the scope is, what part of organization, processes, facilities should be in the scope, and what is outside the scope, because you have to decide what is the inside and what is the outside the scope, and what are the issues inside and outside the organization that will influence the ISMS, because that is also important, because sometimes there are some political factors, sometimes there are some local regulation guidelines. So in that case, what are the external and internal factors? Then who are the stakeholders in the ISMS that have certain needs and expectations? So this is the part of your definition of scope and context of ISMS. Then after this you need to plan the project. So planning the project is basically based on the scope, how you will created the scope, plan the project to implement the ISMS. You need to plan the project. Mostly I personally feel the part of the ISMS are already in place in most of the organizations, and the existing organization just to find the gaps between the requirements and the exactly they have. Okay, so gap assessment, although it's a separate part, but while planning the project, this can be very much helpful to help you out. Okay, then we have ISMS objectives and overall management system, in which you will going to work with top management to determine the objective for ISMS. So can anybody tell what can be objective for ISMS in your organization? Anybody? If you are implementing ISO in your SCADA, I would say what is the primary objective? What is the objective for you to implement? Just for compliance, or to have some output?
Both
Reduce
To
security
prevent the
and
cyber attacks.
Yeah, to remove the cyber attack. So basically the objective should be like, I would say, they should be specific. Some things I would say that is very much important. Let me write down for you, I just forgot to mention here. The objectives should be specific. The objective should be measurable, because until unless you are not able to measure it, it is of no use. The third important thing is achievable. Okay, and it should be realistic, and it should be time bound.
Time bound.
Understood? Yeah, somebody's saying something.
No.
Any questions in this? Because it should be specific, measurable, achievable. You created an objective, but it is not achievable. So at the end of the day, you got failed. So create such objective that can be achievable with the help of top management, with your efforts. Okay. Let us suppose you create a objective that we will have 100% uptime. So is it achievable?
No, there
No,
should be some
no.
margin.
No, it is not achievable. Na? Everybody know that it is not possible.
It
And
should it may be that it may be target, but it is not always achievable.
yeah, it can be a target, but this is not achievable. So every objective should be time bound, that we will perform in 6 months. It should be realistic. It should be specific. Okay.
Sure.
Just a moment. Just a moment. Okay. So any questions in this? Because ISMS objectives are very much important. Then the other important part is your information security policy. And I would say, if you are framing the information security policy, the top management help and guidance is very much required. Basically, information security policy is a document, and document can range from a high level statement to a very lengthy document, which shall cover all sort of aspects of information security into your organization. So what I personally feel is, you start with a concise policy covering the basic requirements of ISO 27001, and then you can expand with the help of your requirements. So do not start the information security policy with a very bulky policy in which encryption you have also added, in which SLAs, although SLA is a very basic part of ICS policy, and sometimes some other high level achievement should be there, but do not try to start with it. Try to start with the basic features of information security policy that are required in routine. Okay. Then the next step is your risk assessment. Okay. So try to develop a risk management process and do your first risk assessment. Okay, because whenever you implement ISO, you have to go and start with the risk assessment. You need to determine what type of threats your organization information is having, and what are the assets involved, what are the vulnerabilities, and what are the vulnerabilities of the asset you have identified, and what are the resulting risk level is. So this is a part of risk assessment. I think risk assessment part is already clear. I have tried to cover all the things in risk assessment. Then we have an implementation of controls. So based on the risk assessment, you need to find out that what controls you need to implement to reduce the likelihood or impact of those risks occurring. Okay, so this is very important. So whenever you trying to implement the controls, okay, whenever you trying to implement the controls, two things you need to keep in mind. One is the impact, and one is a impact
Probability.
and one is the probability. Okay, so whenever you trying to implement the control, try to check that how it will affect the impact, how it will affect the probability. Okay, so once you have controls implemented in your organization, try to compare with the references. Okay, now if you see this, there is a annexure A. Okay, there is a annexure A, and all the controls are written in this, and it will be creating your SOA, statement of applicability. Okay, look, one thing is there. These are called clauses. What are these? Clauses. Clause 3, clause 4, clause 5, clause 6. clause 7, clause 8, clause 9, clause 10. Okay, just say yes or no. Is it clear to you? Clauses, these are called clauses.
Yes,
And
sir.
these are called controls. Okay, now listen very carefully. Clauses are mandatory, they cannot be excluded. Okay, controls are not mandatory, can be excluded with justification. Understood? Controls are not mandatory, they can be excluded, but justification is required. When auditor will come to your office, it will ask that why 8.1 control is not applied. Then you will say that it is talking about encryption, it is talking about software development, and we do not have a in-house software development facilities, so we have excluded this control. But if you have excluded this operation clause, this is not accepted. All the clauses are mandatory. Your scope is mandatory. Your terms and conditions are mandatory. Your leadership commitment is mandatory. Your risk assessment, risk treatment, risk mitigation, your risk treatment plan is mandatory. Your support part is mandatory. Operations, performance evaluation, improvement. So these are the mandatory clauses. So always remember, clauses are, just say with me, clauses are
Mandatory.
mandatory, and controls are not mandatory but excluded with
Justification.
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 This is very important. Okay, so
Sir, I have a question.
yeah, sure,
Sir, hello.
yeah, please,
Sir, Anil here from ERD.
yeah,
Sir, if any organization is ISO 27000 compliant, right? But they are not using any, say, online payment gateway. Now, if they are starting using online payment gateway, so is it necessary to have the compliance of PCI DSS also, or it is suffice that ISO 27000 is fine?
sir. Basically, PCI DSS is not mandatory in India, है ना? To be very frank. But second thing is
Right.
that to have a faith of customer, PCI DSS is recommendatory. If you have heard about HIPAA,
Right.
HIPAA is basically standard of health industry in US, है ना? Which is talking about the information security of health industry practices.
Right.
And if actually HIPAA is not mandatory, but if you are in India, okay, let me tell you, you are in India and you are running a KPO, and in that KPO you are handling the request of US customers regarding your health insurance or some health issues. Okay, so your KPO must be complied with HIPAA. Okay, so basically
Right.
these requirements are as per the customer who is giving you the business. It will ask that, sir, if you are SOC 1, 2 and 3 compliant, then only we will give you business. Okay, so basically these certification will increase the trust and credibility, that yes, customer has a faith in you that definitely if you are HIPAA compliant, SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3 compliant, PCI DSS compliant, ISO compliant, it means you have effective controls implemented into your organization. Understood?
Yes.
Understood? I think so. Your question is clear
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Okay. So what is SOA? Let me come again to this file. What is SOA? Statement of applicability. Okay. Let us suppose in earlier 114 controls are there. In 2013, 114 controls are there, and currently there are 96 controls. Please correct me if I am wrong. 96 or 98 something is there. Okay. So list of all the how many there?
I think it is 93, sir, in
93. Yeah,
2002.
sorry. Yeah, sorry, I just confused. There are a lot of standards I am studying, so sometime I forgot. Yeah. So the list of controls is basically your SOA. List of control is your SOA. Okay. List of control is your SOA, and this statement of applicability will tell you that what controls you have implemented into your organization. Okay, so once you have the controls implemented, compare these with the control references in Annexure A, as I have told you, of ISO 27001, and indicate which of those you did and did not implement. You have to create a list. You have to create a list in SOA. There is a table. If you want to see, I will share a SOA with you, in which there is a control number 10.2. You will say yes or no. If no, you have to put down remarks here. Okay. This is the result, and this document which basically will become your SOA. Understood what is SOA? Yes or no?
Sir. These are the controls.
Yeah, these are the controls. Okay, let me share that exact thing with you. Just hold for a minute so that it will be getting more clear. Just a minute. I am stopping the presentation to find the file. Na? So is my screen visible?
Yes,
okay.
sir.
So you can see I have a license copy for this. Okay. So it is recommended to always buy a license copy if you want to implement ISO in your organization. It is ISO 27.
What is the cost of that document, sir?
Sir, it is around 500 rupees, sir.
Nominal. Okay.
If you buy it from IEC, International Electrotechnical Commission, it will cost you around 25,000. And if you buy it from Indian BIS, okay, it will cost you. It will cost you around 500 rupees. You can see it is listed BIS here.
Can be obtained online or?
Yes, you can buy it from online, sir. You can buy it online, sir.
Directly from the website of BIS.
From BIS website you can buy it, sir.
Okay, right.
This is the website, Bureau of Indian Standards, and from here you can buy your standard, and it is always available in your purchase section. So you can, anytime you want to buy, you can buy it. Okay. So what I am trying to tell you is, so these are the clauses. Okay, these are the clauses. These clauses are mandatory. Okay, you cannot skip the clauses. Okay, these clauses are changed somewhere because this is 2013. I still have to buy 2022 version. Okay, and what are the controls? I would say here. Let me go directly to the controls. That is Annexure A. See, Annexure A is there, visible?
Sir.
And we have a reference control objectives. So, our first control is information security policy. Okay. And then we have in A.5, this is a, what is this? Tell me.
Information security policy.
What it is called? It is called control objective.
Controls.
This is called control objective. A.5 is called control objective. Okay. and this is called control. Understood? This is called control. Sir, kindly mute, sir. Mute if you are not asking any question. Okay, so this is a difference. This is a control objective and this is a control. A 5.1.1 is a control and A.5 is a control objective. Okay, so in SOA you will write all the controls. You will write all the control. You seen written there control. Like if I talk about policy for information security, this is a control. So what control you need to implement? A set of policies for information security shall be defined, approved by management, published and communicated to employees and relevant external parties. Okay, so what the auditor will see, like I am also an ISO auditor. I have audited many organizations for ISO. So what I am going to do when I am going to audit the organization, I will ask them to share a copy of ISO with that security policy with me. Secondly, I will check that the policy is approved or not by the management. They will say yes sir, it is approved. Then I will ask them to share a approval letter or any email through which they have get their approved, or if into a government department I will ask them for a note sheet approval copy. Then I will ask that whether it is communicated to employees or not, because this is a part of control communicated to employees. They have created a policy but they have not communicated to the employees. So you can see it is basically control is not complied. So, okay, so a auditor will give you a non-compliant a NC on this. So when you are talking about ISO certification, so compliance of all these controls are very much important. I've just given an example of security policies. There are 114 controls in this 2013 version. So let us suppose go to encryption part. Okay, now see this. Now some control is talking about secure disposal of reuse of equipment. Okay, I am not going to talk each and every control because studying this control will take around 10 hour sessions. Okay, but I am giving you a small gist so that you can have a better idea, and if you want to understand each and every control, so in that case what it is required, all items of equipment containing storage media shall be verified to ensure that the sensitive data and licensed software have been removed or securely overwritten prior to disposal of reuse. Okay, so it is a control. Now, do you think this control is valid in your organization or not? Tell me, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
So you have to share to auditor that how you are securely disposing the reuse of equipment, how you are disposing or you are reusing the equipment with a verification that sensitive data and licensed software have been removed. So you have to share them the practice, and for sharing the practice you need to prove something with some documentation or something. Understood? So these are the controls which is coming under the which part? What is the control objective? Physical and environmental security. Okay, this is the control objective, physical and environmental security, and this is the control, physical security parameter. Okay, now let me tell you one thing. Have you heard about 27002? Have you heard about 27002?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
What it
OT
is?
part.
No, it is not OT part.
It will, I think, elaborate more
In the
about the control.
practice,
Let me tell you. Yeah, this is the part. Let me download it for you. See, your organization is 9001 compliant? Yes or no?
Yes.
Quality management. So let me tell you one thing till the time it is downloaded.
It is also available in this BIS web.
Yeah, pardon?
27 27002 is also available this
Yeah.
on
Okay.
BIS.
Yeah, it is available. But let me make you people understand what is the difference between 27001 and 27002. See, after any standard, if one is there, it means it is a certifiable standard. Okay, like 9001, 27001, 10,001, 18,001 environmental security. Okay, so in end, if one is there, it means it is a certifiable standard, and other standards are guiding standards. What is there? Guiding standards. Is it clear? Yes or no?
No, sir. Once more, please.
Yes, sir.
See, these 9001, 27,001, 10,001, 18,001. If you go for the audit of these standards, you will get a certificate, because these are certifiable standards. Okay, you can put a certificate behind your wall, on your wall behind you. Okay, but other than this, if there is 27,003, 27,004, 27,005, these are not certifiable. These are supporting guiding standards to implement the 27,001.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Thank you.
Understood now?
Yes, sir. Yes. Thanks a lot.
Because this is a
But
very
why-
big confusion. Yes, sir, please.
But while certifying 27001, the auditor will observe that 27002, 3 and 4 and
No,
other
sir, basically,
guidelines have been implemented or not.
let me come to that only. As you can see, how many pages are there in 27,001? 27?
27.
Yeah. Now see how many pages are there in 27,002?
125.
125. Now go to this very first control. Which is our first control? Information security policy. Okay, just remember 5.1.1. It is talking about a control, that a set of policy of information security should be defined. But how to define it is available in ISO 27002. It is defined in 27002 Code of Practice for Information Security Controls. How these controls are going to be implemented is guided in 27002. Understood? Now it will be clear after a few minutes. Let me go to that directly.
There are certain control which are industry specific. For example, 27,001, 2019 are specifically for power sector.
Yeah.
So like that.
Yeah. But it is not auditable actually.
Okay.
You cannot say that I am a certified 27,019.
Okay.
You are complying with 27,019, but you get certificate for 27,001 only.
Okay. So how do we say that we are, certified? So it's like a add-on to 2001, 27,001.
We are complied to 27,019, you can say.
Okay.
Where it is gone. किधर गया? हाँ, ये रहा, देखो. हाँ. What is this? 5.1 policy for information security. It is asking for a control. But how to implement that control? The implementation guidance is available here. This is the control, same control.
Yes.
Relevant external parties, relevant external parties, same control. But 27002 is giving you the implementation guidance. That how to do that. It is telling you.
That auditor will verify in order to comply the guide comply 5.1.1.
Yes.
These steps have been taken by the organization or not?
Yes. Now you
Because
are
this
on right.
auditor will verify.
Yes, perfect, Malula sir. This is the thing. And this 27001 is basically the implementation guidance. That how you going to implement it. Okay, it will tell you that you must should address requirement created by your business strategy. You should cater your regulation, legislation, contract. So your policy should be framed in such way so these guidelines should be covered.
So before getting certification of 27001,
yeah,
in order to get the certification of 27001, we will have to study and implement the guidelines given in 2700. And
yes. For each and every control, there is a implementation guidance available. Okay, like your IT policy, your IT security policy should be talking about access control. It should be talking about information classification, physical environmental security, end user oriented, such as acceptable use of assets, backup, information transfer, protection for malware, cryptographic controls. So these are the parts of your information security policy. Right? This is a mandatory part, information security policy. Okay.
this document is available in BIS.
Yeah, this document is available with BIS. I have not purchased this document. I have my own 27001 purchase document, but this is given by my training provider. Okay, so this is written for training purpose only. But if you wish, I can share with you people only because this is also a part of training we are doing today.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So any question in this, because this is very important topic, na? Differences between 27001 to how the controls are being implemented, what are the clauses, how the clauses are being mandatory, how the controls can be excluded. So all these things should be clear in your mind. Is it fine? Or any questions are there?
Yes, sir.
I am expecting some questions
This
here.
document is for 27002 not 2013.
This is 2013, but updated version is now released for 22.
22 also.
Yeah. I have not purchased because I do not use nowadays ISO so much, so I have not purchased. So any questions in this? Anyone should, or otherwise we can move ahead. Lot of things to go ahead.
Should move.
Okay. Okay, so we have talked about statement of applicability. Then we have an important topic that we called it as a internal audit. Okay, in internal audit, what you are going to do, make a small team and act like an external auditor and check that whether all the controls that are available in the standard are implemented or not, because it is also always recommended that checker and maker should be different. Okay, so an internal audit will help you out. And then at the not last, but it is at the verge of ending, we have a management review. Perform a review with your top management to show them what the state of the ISMS is, what has changed, what the changes you have done, what is the performance of the ISMS, how you are doing the ISMS, what is the status of risk management and treatment, what are the opportunities for improvement, because at this moment of time you have got an opportunity to tell your management that these are the opportunities, these are the changes that required in the system. This provides the opportunity for top management to make decision on how to improve the ISMS, because this is important, because if you do not tell your management that where the changes are required, it's very hard for them to change it. Okay, so management review is also important. Then you can ask some external audit to come into your organization, and basically the external auditor will usually called it as a CB, certifying body. Okay, CB certifying body, and you would appoint a certifying body for an external audit. Okay, so in this way your path to a successful implementation shall be completed. Okay, so let's talk something about what are the definitions of a subject. uh,
Excuse me,
Information. Yeah.
who are the external bodies, certifying bodies? Name of the certifying bodies?
Sir, actually, there are few things I need to mention here, that there is a body NABCB, National Accreditation Board of Certifying Bodies. Okay, and in that
Yeah.
NABCB, let me tell you, NABCB is working under the Quality Council of India, National Accreditation Board for Certification Bodies. And in this NABCB, they have listed some of the organizations who are responsible for the ISO 27001 audits. Okay, they have a lot of, just a moment, let me find for you.
They are like ISO car, UCAS.
Yeah. So, right. See, like these are the companies currently listed with this, no?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
Yeah, please.
for power sector, what is your opinion that a certification body should be a Indian company for power in terms of in view of the criticality of the assets
Sir,
involved being audited?
I personally feel is that if you go with this, na Quality Council of India, and it's a government body, and basically, na, if you see, there is a body which is known as IAF. IAF is a means International Accreditation Forum. Okay, and let me also tell you, there are a lot of fraud companies these days which are coming to you for your certifications, and they are not accredited with IAF. So it is important that the body which is certifying you should be a member accredited with IAF. Okay, and I think so. These
But
information should
IF
not.
again is
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Sir, please continue.
Yeah, please. IAF
So
again is.
you mean to say both the yeah, you mean to say both the accreditation body as well as the certification body, certifying body, both should be Indian based,
No,
at
actually,
least for power
this
sector.
this is not about India or something. Actually, we are living in a global environment, and these are globally recognized bodies. IAF is a globally recognized body. It is not owned by any country. Okay, IAF is a global recognized body which is taking care of each and everything about accreditations. Okay, International Accreditation Forum. Okay, so always check this logo. Even all of the organization who have got that ISO should have this logo into your certificate. until unless your certificate is not valid. This IAF logo. Okay. So this is a website of IAF, and in this you will see the accreditation bodies. Okay. Now what is there? These accreditation bodies are there, and like there are total 97 accreditation bodies. Okay. But what I have written here is certification bodies. What I have written here is certification body. So there is a difference between certification and accreditation body. IAF has given accreditation to 97 bodies. If I talk about India, we have a which is the accreditation body in India?
NABCV.
NABCV. And NABCV has listed these certification bodies. And NABCV has listed these certification bodies. Understood?
So we have to look for certifying bodies which are accredited to NABCB.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely it is required because IAF has accredited only 97 bodies, and in India NABCB is accredited.
There is only one body in India which has been accredited by IAF.
या
Only
ऑल्सो
one.
देखो सर
NABCB.
एक चीज और है इसमें कि अब सपोज करो कि आप इसमें यूएई का ले लेते हैं. लेट अस सपोज, है ना, यूएई, देयर इज अ यूएई, and in UAE there is some few more bodies, okay, like this Emirates International Accreditation Center. Okay, so this is also accredited, and if you get your company audited from the organization which is Emirates International Accredited Center certified, so that is also valid. I am not saying that is not valid, but for Indian perspective, NABCB is the accredited body, and that accredited body has given some list of certifying bodies. See, this is written certifying body, certification body, and it is written accreditation body. There is a very difference between accreditation and certification body. This NABCB will not come to you for certification. This NABCB will not come.
I understood. Means that certification of ISO 27001
yes,
issued by TUV and one of
So TUV issued
the
South
body has this
Asia.
Emirates. Both are valid.
Both are valid. Both are valid. It is not issue.
But it will be better if you take certification from body like TUV because it has been accredited to NABCB. Right.
Yeah, it is. You can say, but it is not mandatory, sir. It is not written anywhere. Yeah, one more question is somebody is asking.
Sir, the last column of this model shows that IAF MLA agreement signed. What does this mean?
Sir, actually, these bodies have signed a multilateral agreement with IAF also directly to ensure the quality and all. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah, Mulmule sir, you are asking something.
Miss, because ISO 27001 is mandatory, has been made mandatory. So if we take certification from TUV or any agency which has any certifying body which has been accredited to like Emirates of UAE accreditation body agency, then both these certifications will equally hold good for CERTIN or NIFEC, right?
Yeah, it is valid.
Fine. Thank you.
Okay. Like if I talk about your Madhya Pradesh, na sir, your SCADA is certifying from this this organization, Maverick Quality Advisory Service. I have seen your certificate with this name. Okay, let's move ahead. So these are the objectives of the information security. That what are the objectives of information security? Information security is dealing with the ISMS. Information security consists of the policies, procedures, guideline, and definitely the associated resources and activities. They are the collectively managed by organization. This is very important. If I tell you, ISMS is basically a systematic approach for establishing, operating, implementing, monitoring, and reviewing of your organization information security posture. Because information security posture is very much important for any organization, and if the posture is being deteriorated, then definitely you are not able to survive into the this hackers environment. So this ISMS will help you out in managing the security threats. Okay. Now let me tell you one more thing, that information security has basically three cornerstones. Okay, we have set down three cornerstones. First is the ISMS itself, which is overall management system for information security. Second is the control that results from risk management. Okay, so let me tell you, this is the controls which you will get from your risk management, because after risk management you will find that these are applicable to you or not, how you are managing the risk. And the third is continuous focus on your CIA, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Okay, so this is important: confidentiality, integrity, availability. So basically there are three pillars, and other information security may also exist, like incident management, threat management, physical security, but these are the major pillars for the information security. Okay, any questions in this? Any questions?
A
Okay,
small
so
question.
yeah, so can we take one? Hi, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, so shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Everybody is back. Actually, this is a long session of 4 hours. So we have talked about the basics of ISO. What are the clauses? What do you mean by clauses in ISO? What do you mean by controls in ISO? How the implementation works? What is the SOA, statement of applicability? Okay, let me ask few questions from you people. Can I exclude a clause during the audit from implementation?
No.
No. Okay. So can I exclude a control?
Yes, with
With
justification.
justification.
Yes. Perfect. Good. So now I will be talking about risk management in ISO 27001. So which clause is talking about risk management in 27001? Tell me. Which clause?
6 and 8.
6.
6. Perfect. 6 and 8. Yes. 8.1 and 8.2 is also talking about risk management. है ना? So when we talk about risk management, three important things are there. The first part is risk assessment. Then second is selection of mitigating controls and strategies. and third we used to call it as a residual risk. Okay, so when we start the risk assessment, if you see, uh, from the very initial of this lecture, we are talking on risk assessment, how the risk assessment will be done. But if we talk about the ISMS specific, so there is a way to do that, and the diagrammatic approach is already I have shared with you. The main elements of a risk management or risk assessment is that yet you should implement the proper controls to mitigate the risk so that the residual risk you will be getting. Okay, so okay, tell me that residual risk you will accept or transfer or mitigate. Anyone?
Accept.
Accept. Okay, so basically risk and opportunity management, why you need to do the management? Because to ensure the information security management system into your organization, and you need to prevent, you need to reduce, you need to understand the effects of that risk and how the breaches of the information security will be affecting your organization. So end of the day, you have to achieve a continual improvement in your ISMS by improving the improvement opportunities. So this is the major risk management goals. So what are the risk management principles? If I talk about risk management principles, so what are the risk management principles? Let's talk about it. So in order to be able to do the risk management, the first thing is to know what should be protected, because that is all very important. What should be protected? These items are known as assets. Now everybody know about asset. What is an asset? Yes or no? Because everything that has a value to the organization. Okay, everything that has a value to the organization and is there to provide access to information and which is need to be secured is called as an assets. Okay, tell me what asset include? Asset includes people. Yes or no? Asset include buildings. It include networks. It include your databases. It include your cloud infrastructure. It include your server system. It even include your digital and printed documentation also. Yes or no? So the first step is to determine a list of assets. If the list is becoming very long, so you can categorize the asset, that these are the asset under the building category, these are the asset under the network category, these are the assets under the physical assets or digital assets. It is also necessary to determine why these assets need protection. Okay, so this is very important, that why these assets need protection, because until unless you have declared the asset and you have identified the assets, but why factor is very much important, that why these assets need to be protection. You should ask yourself, do they contain data? And if yes, then what kind of data it is having? Also, do they contain data and what type of access of data is required on these assets? Okay. Second thing, do these assets can modify the data? Okay, so all these things will create a scenario in front of you so that you can have a visibility of assets. Okay, so basically these considerations will lead to the possibility to determine what risks exist with these type of assets. Network can be attacked from outside using a DDoS, distributed denial of service attacks. Servers can fail by themselves or by some unauthorized access or some insider attack. People can become also like rogue employee. I've always used to say, start modifying or destroying data. So when all type of risk associated with the assets are known, it's result into a long list of potential risk. Yes or no? Are you in agree with me or not? if you do the risk assessment, so it will share you the potential risk.
Yes,
Then
correct.
you need to prioritize that risk, that what risks are more likely to happen and what would be the impact on the assets. Okay, so we can, like, a treatment of risk is required. So what is a treatment of risk? देखो, once a list of prioritized risk is defined, the next step is to find out what can be done to deal with that risk. So treatment means what can be done. Okay, so what can be done? I have talked. Can you tell me what kind of treatment we can done? Accept. Second is
Transfer.
Avoid.
transfer. Then
Sharing.
Hanji,
Avoidance,
Avoidance.
avoidance, and
mitigation.
which is remaining?
Sharing.
Sharing.
Sharing. Good, good, good. Okay, so basically we have a treatment plan which is basically dealing with the impact and likelihood. Okay, so these are the risk assessment answer. So you need to answer these questions with your team, that what are the risks, what are the priorities in dealing with the risk, what are the options to deal with this risk. So these are the options you need to taken care of. Okay, so now we will be talking about steps in risk management processes. This is now everything what is telling you is specific to 27001. Although it is, I'm not defining the clauses right now because I have not taught you the 27001 whole framework. That's why I am not stating with the clauses. I'm talking the generic information as per the standard. So the risk assessment process has majorly four aspects to consider. That is your asset, then your threat, then your risk, and then your controls. So let me talk about asset first. So as I mentioned previously, it should be determined what assets are in scope of the risk assessment. Okay, so you can refer to the previous slides for that. Assets should have owners or persons responsible for them, because this is very important, that who are the owners, because until unless the ownership of asset is not defined, it's very hard to do the risk assessment, because the protection mechanism for that asset is to be done, and that is to be ensured by the owner, risk, that asset owner, and that asset owner will become the risk owner. Okay, then secondly we have threats. Okay, then secondly we have threats. In that, threats are put into action by threat agents. So who can be the threat agents? Anybody can tell who can be the threat agents? Threat agent means
Insider, outside,
who can
outsider.
generate the threat. See, the people who are working in your company, or some group of people, or automated activities can be a threat agent. Yes or no? So
Yes.
you need to identify these threat agents. Okay. Then threat agents try to exploit the vulnerabilities and assets. Also, the two basic aspects of threat are their likelihood and impact, that we have already discussed. So we need to discuss how likely is it that threat will materialize and actually leads to an information security event. We have to find out also, if the incident happened, what would be the impact to the organization. This is very important, that how it will going to impact the organization. I think we have already discussed about it. So in order to answer this question, it is important to involve all relevant stakeholders. Stakeholders include your asset owners, responsible management, legal and human resource representatives, other groups required. So basic aim is to assess the impact of threats to the organization business, because end of the day we need to protect our environment, we need to assess the risk of the threat. Then the third important pillar of the risk management process is which we call as a risk, which include define a formula to calculate the magnitude of risk, define the risk appetite of the owner, find options to mitigate unacceptable risk. Listen, this is very important. Risk can be expressed as the product of threat and vulnerabilities. We have already discussed. Risk, we have a calculated threat into vulnerability. Do you remember this? In my second or third class, I have talked about this. Threat into vulnerability. How many of you remember? Where I have shown a picture, elephant is sitting on a car. Remember? Yes or no? Am I audible or not?
Sir, audible.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes. So, you know that if the threat increases, the risk increases, yes or no? Yes or no? Threat increase is directly
Yes, sir.
proportional to risk. And if the vulnerability is higher than the risk, if vulnerability is higher, the risk is automatically getting higher. So, for risk assessment purpose, a different approach we are using, that is risk is equal to likelihood into impact. Okay. Earlier, when we are calculating using the threat into vulnerability, in that case, we are considering the vulnerability of the asset. But now when we are using the risk assessment here, we will be using likelihood into impact. Okay. So this is the major difference between the risk assessment I have taught you there and here. Okay. So now the fourth important part is controls. Okay. The fourth important part is control. That how the controls are being implemented and understand and mitigate the new risk. Okay. So controls have various nature and which will be explained in the form of different type of like physical security is a control, network security is a control, and cryptographic controls are there. Okay, so you need to understand that how to implement the control, understand and mitigate the new risk of the control. Okay, so these are the things. Any question in this? Anyone? Okay, so now this generic workflow is very much important. We will talk on that. So basically, this workflow, what it is saying that threat agents are entities giving rise to threat to assets. Their aim is to abuse or damage assets, and they aim to damage the information on these assets. Also, threats try to exploit the vulnerability of assets and end of the day lead to a risk to these assets. Okay, so let us talk on this because this is very much important. Okay, tell me who own an asset? Who own an asset?
Owner.
Owner, user. So who will going to value the asset?
User or owner.
Okay, so owner will value the asset. Is it fine?
Yes.
Okay. Owner wish to minimize the risk. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Now tell me, who will impose the controls?
Owner.
Owner will impose the controls. Okay. Controls that may possesses vulnerability. Yes or no?
Yes.
And controls vulnerability that may be reduced by controls. Yes or no?
Yes.
Also, who will know the vulnerability first? That these are the vulnerabilities in the system. Owner. So owner must be aware of the vulnerability.
Correct.
Yes.
Understood. So this part is understood. I think so. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now tell me, vulnerabilities will lead to
Risk.
and risk will lead to damaging of assets.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Now tell me, who are the threat agents?
Owner.
Outsider.
Good. Group of
And
people.
Users.
Automation. Okay. These agents will give rise to threats. Yes or no? These threats will exploit the vulnerability. And these threats will increase the risk. Clear? So this is the risk management or workflow. So can you jot down the most important part, most important, I would say, stakeholders in this, or I would say most
Owner.
important people? First is owner.
Owner.
Second is asset.
asset.
Third is
Threat
controls.
agents. Controls.
Fourth is vulnerabilities. Fifth is threat agents.
Threat agents.
And sixth is threats.
Threats.
Clear?
Yes, sir.
Understood. So this is the risk management generic overflow. And this overflow, this workflow will tell you that how to minimize the risk. Okay, now tell me, if you want to minimize the risk, what you will do? Just answer with this help of this diagram. To reduce the risk, okay, to reduce the vulnerabilities, what you will do?
Find out the threats and
Increase
threat
control.
agents and
Okay,
mitigate
Apply
them.
the controls.
apply the controls. Okay. Okay, now tell me, if if a asset is overvalued, just listen to me carefully. If the asset is overvalued, do you think that the risk management process, the motive behind the risk management process will fail? Tell me.
No.
Could be.
My
Yes,
question
focus
is,
will be changed.
my question is, if asset value is overvalued, then risk management process will fail or not? How many of you are saying yes?
I think will not fail
No, sir.
It will fail.
No, not a fail.
because we are just creating a value. So it may not fail because just a value.
Okay,
If you
now
are
tell me,
taking a
your,
Yes, sir.
this is a server. Okay, this is a server, and on 1 to 10 rating, you are going to give a value. Okay. Let us suppose this is a server which is handling simple operations of your user to enter some data. So the original value of 2, but you have put down value of 10. The owner, because who will assign value to asset?
Owner.
owner.
Okay. So you are doing risk management. You have seen that this value is 10, means it is critical.
Correct.
So when you are talking about criticality, you need to talk about impact. You need to talk about probability of happening of event. So basically, the risk score will rise. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And risk score will
Correct.
rise, which will lead to change in priorities.
Correct.
Okay, when you change the priority, by mistake, a low value asset is set on a high priority. So, is it good or not? Or is it bad?
Bad.
Bad. So, this is very important. Valuation of asset is also very important. Understood?
So
Valuation of asset is also.
basically, yeah, in this example, we can say that if we are creating a high priority for a less critical server, then the actual critical server mitigation and controls will take delay because of that. So because of that, we'll suffer.
Definitely, it will suffer. Because the person who needs an urgent treatment, he will die
Agree.
without any treatment. Na?
Correct.
That's the same thing doctor is doing into the hospital. The person who is more critical will be taken first. So that's why value is more important. And this figure is a very perfect figure to understand the correlations between the owner, control, vulnerability, risk and assets. Okay. There is a direct connection shown here, threat to assets. You can see.
Yes.
Sometime what happen, assets do not have any vulnerability. And we thought that there is no risk. Okay. But some insider threats are there which can directly hamper the assets. Okay. So how to manage access and authorization? Understood?
Sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So let us talk about risk management according to the ISO 27001 2013. What the standard is saying. See, there is one more standard I would like to mention. Yes.
Can you please explain the last point in the previous slide which you just shown when the asset is not having any value?
Not having any value? I'm saying if an asset is not having any vulnerability, asset is not having any risk. But still there is a threat to asset because maybe due to some insider threat.
Right.
You have updated everything, but still there is a threat to asset, na?
Right, sir.
Okay. So there is a very other important standard that is going to be used, which is called as ISO 31000, which is talking about the risk management principle and guidelines. So whenever you do the risk management, it should align with the main standard of risk management, that is ISO 31000, in its requirement for the information security risk management. And I would like to mention here that ISO 31000 specified a number of phases and activities required to do proper risk management. And ISO 20001 has formulated a standard process of risk assessment, which include an information security risk assessment process, and it should be developed in such a way that established and maintained information security risk criteria, because risk criteria maintenance is very much important. This criteria are the risk appetite and a set of methodology to perform the risk assessment. As I have already told, this methodology should specify things such as frequency of risk assessment. I think somebody has also asked before frequency of risk assessment, the way in which impact and likelihood are determined, who should own certain risk and who should be responsible for risk treatment. Okay. The information security risk assessment process should be used to identify risk associated with the loss of confidentiality, integrity and availability, the CIA triad I have already discussed, within the scope of information security management system. Okay, so this is very important. Let me discuss with this graph. There is an information which should be go under a risk analysis. Okay. During the risk analysis, you should identify the possible sources to estimate the risk. In risk analysis, it should be undergone a risk evaluation where there should be a risk criteria. You know risk criteria. What is risk criteria? Remember risk criteria we have discussed. What is risk criteria? We have given scores to risk. Remember 1 to 7, 7 to 14. So this is basically risk criteria. Then we should find the significance of risk. That what is the significance of risk? Then we have a risk acceptance, yes or no. In case we select for yes, so we will be degrade the priority, and if we say no, we will not accepting the risk, then we will go and treat the risk. Okay, so this is the basic flow diagram of 27001 ISO risk assessment. The most important thing that I want to mention is you should be aware about this ISO 31000 also. If you want to understand risk management more, so ISO 31000 should be knowing. You can see that this is ISO. This is not ISO 31001. Have you noticed this? Why it is not 31001? Anyone?
Doesn't need certification.
Yes, it is not a certifiable standard. It is a compliance and guiding standard. Okay. Any questions up to this? Anyone? I feel that participants are tired. Yes or no?
Sir, one point related to ISO, for threats, you have told that automation is a process of threat.
Yeah.
So, can you little bit elaborate, because since many companies are moving into automation, in that case, is there the programming flaws, or somebody tries to do modifications in that automation? Is that the sense, or
Sir, automation
any?
is a threat. Let me explain with you example. In power sector specific, I would say there is a SAS device, substation automation solution. Okay, which can open and close a breaker, which can operate a relay. So, in case of malfunction, okay, in case of malfunction, this SAS can be a threat or not.
But malfunction, how, sir? It is like if the people does something, then it is
No,
relevant to.
sometimes device malfunction itself only. It doesn't require every time to be hacked or something. Sometimes devices have their own malfunction, or maybe some extra humidity, maybe some extra temperature. Device stopped working. In that case, what will happen? It will be creating a threat or not.
Okay.
Understood?
Yeah, sure.
Because every time don't relate everything with some attack or something. Sometimes natural things will also happen ना. अपन जा रहे हैं, अपना गाड़ी खराब हो गया, तो डेट इज ऑल्सो थ्रेट. हमने सर्विस कराया, सब कराया, बट स्टिल गाड़ी में आ गया प्रॉब्लम, तो वो एक ऑटोमेशन का थ्रेट भी है. पीपल तो थ्रेट हैं, पीपल आर ऑलवेज थ्रेट, ग्रुप ऑफ पीपल आर थ्रेट, एपीटीज आर थ्रेट, एक्टिविस्ट आर थ्रेट, स्टेट स्पॉन्सर्ड एक्टिविटीज आर थ्रेट, बट एक every asset has its own threat value. Is it clear?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Anyone has any more question on this? So that otherwise we can proceed further. So try to read this ISO 31000. Yeah, please.
Sir, bots can also be considered under the head of automation as a threat vector, as a threat actor. Sorry.
Yeah, definitely it can be. Let me tell you an example. CCTV, you know CCTV, everyone? As per recent report, around 35% of CCTV in world are acting as a bots, and they are executing DDoS attack. Tell me, every CCTV has a IP? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
You can ping CCTV. CCTV is giving you a reply. It means this device has a capability to handle a ICMP packet. So if somehow this device is compromised and it is flooding some ICMP packets to a particular server, and 10,000 of such devices will do the same thing at same time, does it create a DDoS attack?
Yes.
Yeah. So bots, they are basically bots. Have you seen? Remember that word, na, zombies? So these CCTVs are acting as zombies right now.
Any IoT can work as zombies.
Yeah, definitely. Even Alexa can become zombie. So shall we move ahead?
Sir.
So now answer to a question from a participant from IRDA. So this is a question. Risk assessment. When you're doing risk assessment, produce a business impact analysis first to determine where a risk assessment is required, specific to your business. Because this is very important. Specific business impact analysis should be considered before a risk assessment you will start. Implement a baseline of the risk. However, risk mitigation control must be implemented only when required. Discussing risk that not yet occurred needs an open mind. Okay, why it is important? Because some question has raised from some participant that there is no power failure faced till now. So do we consider it as a risk or not? What do you people think?
It should be considered.
Should be considered.
It should be considered. That's why I have put
Because
down this needs an open mind. You should open your mind and find such things that even not happen but can happen. Okay. Analyze risk can be.
We have to be prepared for.
Yes, sir. Each and every.
We have to be
situation.
prepared. We have to be prepared for all the things which might happen, including attacks.
Yes,
Because we are
yes.
preparing for attacks. Those attacks might have happened previously or not. Ultimately, we have to be prepared for those attacks also.
Because देखो सर इसमें क्या है ना कि when you do a business impact analysis, so a business impact analysis will investigate how's the business objectives. What can be the business objectives? Selling products, services. You want to increase your profit. You want to reduce your cost. You want to satisfy your customers, your employees. So these can be impacted by threats to information security and their associated risk. So business impact analysis will guide you the assessment of impact when determining the risk level. And that business impact analysis will show you that what can be the risk which have not yet occurred. Okay. There are many more tools available, but tools can only assess the process, not perform it. Okay. So nowadays there are a lot of tools available, but basically to run their tools, to perform the action from their tools, people are required. Also, the risk assessment leads to the need to implement certain controls. These controls came in various shapes, like ranging from policies to background checks, from access management, firewalls, putting your security guards into place, updating your software regularly.
Roles and authorization.
Yes, roles and authorization. So all these measures form the backbone of your wider information security program, so that you can have a what is the end target? We should have a resilient cyber infrastructure. Also, risk assessment are not a one-time activity. They should be regular. Even if you can do it a monthly basis, 6 monthly basis, you should have a risk management meeting, so that you have a continual assessment. You should assess the new risk that can be happen. Let us suppose like nowadays COVID is also a risk, or I would say infectious disease is becoming a risk. So whenever you are assessing the risk or doing the risk assessment, do you think that you will cover this thing also nowadays? Yes or no?
Yes.
But before 2019, do we used to cover these things?
It was not known actually.
Because we are not known about things. So new things are coming. So we have to regularly update our risk assessment procedure. Also, the existing treated and accepted risk need to be reassessed. Sometimes we have accepted some risk, we have treated some risk, but it need to be reassessed on a regular basis. Okay. So if anything has changed, we can renew the assessment and create maybe the accepted risk will be Hello. Yeah. So understood this thing. So risk assessment should be done on a regular basis. The best way to achieve a good level of effectiveness in security governance is to perform a periodic risk assessment. We have covered. The organization will not bring down the number of risks down to zero. This is very important, and we need to understand we cannot bring down the value to zero. However, stakeholders must be informed regarding to the residual risk and accept them in agreement with the organization risk appetite. So there will always a risk. So risk management is never done, nor will risk level ever be zero unless the threat or the targeted assets are removed. Only when you remove the asset, the risk associated with the asset will be removed. Until and unless there should be a risk. Therefore, the organization and its stakeholder need to be made aware of residual risk and remain after the risk assessment sections. Any question in this, because this is very important points for the risk assessment. Let us talk a little bit about BIA, business impact analysis, that how the BIA will affect you in terms of your risks. Any questions up to this? So the business impact analysis deal with the impact a threat may have on your business objectives, how a threat may be affecting your business. Also, these threat may result into the loss of damage, or it can disclose your information, your confidentiality, integrity, availability may be hampered. So this impact on the information may in turn lead to financial losses, reputational damages, definitely legal consequences are there, and other business issues can be there. So what BIA is saying, to avoid these business impact issues, the BIA serves to identify business areas and business processes where information security is more important. So in BIA, we are focusing the areas where, like business processes, where the information security is more important. The analysis, the BIA analysis need to get input from various owners, including the information security managers, I have said that risk managers, risk executive, business owners. So themselves they can also help. Possibly the domain specific specializations, people like legal, HR, physical security, they must be incorporated while we are discussing the business impact analysis. See, there is a very big difference between BIA and risk assessment. BIA is not a risk assessment. It is only a purpose to determine business impact of threats. Okay, we are just determining the business impact of threats, that how the threats will impact our business. It is not going to do a formal risk assessment in terms of likelihood or controls or something. Basically, the use of BIA is in the risk assessment is one of the prioritization, that these things need to be prioritized first for the risk assessment. See, when we are doing the risk assessment, we are not still till now we are not talking about the priority, that which asset is need to be assessed on priority for risk assessment. But BIA will tell you that these are the three categories of assets, A, B and C, and A is having a higher impact of business. So risk assessment should be done on A first. Okay, so this is the impact BIA. BIA is not risk assessment. Understood? Any issues in this? Tell me if there is an issue.
Can you give some example how
Okay.
of an
Okay.
organization where
Let me tell you. You
BI
are like you have a e-commerce company. Okay, you have a e-commerce company, and there are few domains. Let me write domains for you. One is your HR domain. Okay, and then another is your data center in which hosting is done, and other one is a security, physical security. Okay, so HR is also a part of ISO. This is also a part of
yes,
ISO, and this is also a part of ISO. But which is impacting your business more? Let us number 1, 2, 3. Which is impacting more?
Security.
No, physical security is not impacting my business. My
Acha,
business is to
physical.
provide a
Yes, DC.
website. So 2 is my priority. So by doing the BIA, I found that 2 is my priority. So on 2, I will do risk assessment first. Understood? Dekho, act as a filter to determine which activities required a risk assessment and which do not.
Okay.
Because in any organization, everything does not require a risk assessment. The BIA will help you to tell you that which assets need risk assessment. Somebody from IRDA has asked this question. Are you there, sir?
Yes, sir, I am here.
So now your
Perfectly said.
question is clear, I think so.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So what are the baseline principles? Implement a limited set of control for assets that are a part of scope. Be able to explain and justify what is sufficient to implement and only those specific control on those assets. Okay. Like you have an asset which is not supporting encryption and you are implementing encryption policy on it. So does it make any sense or not? It is not making any sense. So basically you are giving extra efforts where it is not required. Okay. So do a risk assessment on all the other assets and implement extra controls only when required. Organizational objective, operational constraint as well as applicable legislation and regulation always need to be accounted when implementing risk controls. Represent the way to start setting the information security controls for the organization. See, risk management always goes in cycle. Like after an initial assessment, it is decided to implement a limited set of controls to mitigate the most urgent risk. When you are implementing the controls, it is necessary to justify why these controls are the best to implement the risk. So in your team, like I have already said, you should be working in a team. So you should be enough motivated to tell your team that these are the controls and this is the best treatment of risk. Like if you are saying that this risk should be transferred, but others are not in agree with you, so you should be enough motivated and make them motivated that this risk should be transferred to make the system more secure. Secondly, financial, legal, organizational and operational consideration may play a role here, because sometimes you want to mitigate a risk but it is taking a lot of financial issues. It will like cost you 3 crore rupees to close that risk. So in that case you can accept the risk. So what is important in that area that stand out most in the BIA get treated for risk first, so that the end users will have enough peace of mind. Because main thing is that your customer, your main business will not be affected, and in the next cycle you can go further and assess other areas of business for risk including their assets. If you find that based on the risk assessment cycle additional controls are needed, implement them where required, and at the same time I would say risk areas that have been dealt with earlier cycles can be reassessed. It should be reassessed, I would say, because the earlier areas should not be forgotten. So it's a regular way to assess the risk. Okay. So any questions in this? Any questions till now? Yes or no? Hello,
No,
I'm
sir.
audible. Okay, good. So let me talk a little bit about assessing the risk guidance. So determine which assets are in scope of assessment. Using the BIA, we can find which assets are in scope of assessment. Determine who are the owners of these assets are. Only the owners can clearly discuss the value of assets. I've already talked if overvalued assets are there, so how you will going to deal with that. Discuss the threats to the asset with their owner. This is very important. Discuss the threats with their owner, as there are many different threats to various type of assets. Some are like quite obvious, like theft in building, and some are like some changes in application. So there are different type of threats. So what is the purpose of doing that? Determine which threats are applicable to assets within the scope. Let me tell you, like building is an asset or not? Building is an asset or not?
Yes, yes, it's assets.
Yes.
Yes, assets.
And theft is a risk or not?
Yes, correct.
So can somebody theft building?
No.
No, na. So you should map what assets can be on a particular risk. Okay. So you cannot say that every threat is on same risk. Every risk can be applied on every asset. Understood? So this is important. Standard list of threats do exist, but whether the list is completed should be discussed with the owner. So again and again, one thing is coming. Who is the most important part? Asset or owner?
Owner.
Owner. Because asset is owned by owner, and owner knows the value. This is a server, simple server. If I make it as a DNS server, it becomes critical. Okay, and if I make it as a SAN, it become critical. But if at the same time I make it as a DSCP server, do you think it is a critical? No, it is not that much critical than DNS and SAN. Understand?
Okay.
Understand na? That the server is same, the physical asset is same, even the operating system is same, everything is same. But when it is configured as DNS, it is critical. When it is configured as DSCP server, it is not critical. So the